Ambient noise, yeah.
So now you grabbing some band lab clips.
Now for me that would also be something where I would use like volume automation and like bring that from the bottom, like bring it in and then bring it back out.
And these are the kinds of sounds you can stretch. With this AI, like stretching it actually can be cool.
Oh, that was perfect for the interlude too.
Ends it right in the right spot.
I didn't even notice. 40. The texture faded out at the interlude until it happened. I'm like, wait a minute.
Sometimes you just, it was just meant to be that way.
Always just meant to be that way. Always, not just sometimes. Ah.
This time we got you.
Hello, my friend.
Yes, indeed. How are we feeling today?
Good. What happened with your mic? It sounds like it's
I
distant.
was going to ask you the same thing. Yours sounds a little distant too.
Mine sounds weird too. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm actually on a different computer tonight. My brother had to take the other one for the weekend.
gotcha. Because I'm looking at my signal over here, and I mean, if I'm talking like this, the signal is pretty much up to the 100% of what I'm trying to hit here.
I'm not on
But it
the
could
right.
just be that I'm not always right up in it as I was
I
going.
was not on the right microphone.
Ah, there you go.
Better?
That's better. Yeah. Actually, let me check mine too, because I might be on the webcam or something.
Yeah, it does
Let me
sound like
Yeah, yeah.
maybe it's the webcam.
Mm-hmm. See. It's our
Restream
fault. We were in
flipped
we
our
that we were in Zoom.
settings.
We were in Zoom when we started, so it's our fault. Mea culpa. How about that?
There we go.
Thank you. Thank you. Much better.
Now, yeah, you can bring the volume up a little. Let me.
Oh, even when I'm up in here, like, is that
Oh,
too much? Or
no, there we go. My volume was down. Wow, Restream, what are you doing to me?
and see, this is how we solve problems. Can you hear me? Can I hear you? Can I hear me? Can you hear you?
Yeah, I hear
Making
you
sure
good
everything's
now.
working. All right.
And you
But
know
yes,
what's funny? That's what we're going to actually be talking about tonight is
indeed.
gear.
Hmm. The way to get
Gear
your sound.
Force.
The way to get your sound from the air into a computer or through a speaker in some way. Gear Wars.
And actually some of them are going to be about sound. Here, let me bring up what we do have lined up for tonight.
Hmm.
Um, a little bit of everything when it comes to gear. Some computer gear, musical gear for guitarists, for vocalists, even drummers tonight. We got some finger pad drums from Yamaha that we're going to be looking at.
Nice.
So, but you know the one I'm going to start with. I've been wanting to look at this one for a couple weeks now because I love my trackball. And for those of you who have never tried trackballs when it comes to like music editing and video editing, I wouldn't use anything else. I mean, the mouse is okay, but trackballs really lend themselves to music. Yeah, yeah, that's the one. Oh, you got the nice one too. I still have a couple of old school ones with the red ball. Oh, your mic's gone. Yeah, your mic's
It
back.
clicked on the
Yeah,
mute. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
there.
When I had the mouse upside down this way, the trackball like that, it started clicking. So that's why I usually don't invert the trackball while I'm talking about things. But yeah, the I have a blue one, I have a red one. Usually I always went with the wired ones. I never wanted to go with the wireless, but I mean, the one battery lasts for so long and it warns you so much ahead of time that it's really not an issue.
Yeah, I've actually gone over a year with most of these without a problem.
Yeah, they have really good intelligent shut off, and they're sending such a small amount of data back and forth anyway that it's really no big deal.
So we're going to see what options in 2023 that they have for trackballs, and
Hmm.
I'm expecting that like my Logitech is going to be high up there in that list.
The TrackMan, it's a classic.
Yep. And we're going with our science, like we did last week.
Mhm.
Oh, gotta.
Oh, it started up on you.
I had these all set up too.
Yeah. That's the thing I find too. If I set them up too much ahead of time, then by the time I go back to them, they're ready to go with commercials again.
There we go. Now this first one
Mhm.
after is another one to do with science and the physics of guitars and
Mhm.
how they work. So I wanted to keep a little bit of the science going with that.
Nice.
Ah, see, the other ones are loaded properly.
Excellent.
And this one comes from Robert Jackson. Six ridiculous trends in the guitar industry he's been noticing lately, and from what he says, there some of them are really stupid.
Yeah, it happens, man, for sure.
And uh, not to ignore like the folk artists out there because I love folk and John Mayer music. He's going to show us a guitar that has a rubber bridge, something that I
Rubber bridge.
I did not know. I, there were guitars like this.
I've seen plastic bridges. I've seen bone bridges, but a rubber bridge, I don't think I've seen.
Yeah, yeah, and the price is not too bad.
Hmm.
And speaking of price, we're not going to ignore the bassists. And this one, I'm curious because you've seen some like bass pedal setups with some of the gigs that you cover, and you know the bassists that you've worked with, and
Hmm.
he's got a budget bass pedal board build. You
Nice.
know, the
How to
pedal
get
board
started? Yeah,
kitchen.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And that one's coming from Thommann's Guitar and Basses.
yeah. And I think that's Guillaume. Yeah.
And another one that I've been anxious to look at for the last couple weeks, Focusrite just came out with their Gen 4 Scarletts, and we recommend Focusrites all the time. And now with the Gen 4, I'm really curious to see what they've improved on, and we're going to compare it against the mark of the Unicorn M2. So this one comes from the Garage Band Guide, one of the channels we've actually looked at in the past. Great reviews on equipment, so that was my go-to to see what's up with the Gen 4s.
Now, someone was asking about how that even work holding a pitch on a rubber bridge. My thought is it's probably like a really heavy rubber that's more. It would probably feel more like a plastic, like that heavy of a rubber, where it's not like super springy. That would be my guess,
Yeah.
but we're gonna find out.
And then coming from the Focusrite, because the reason why we tend to recommend they have great mic preamps, but
Hmm.
Colt Capper Capperun, another channel that like we've hit on a couple times. He has awesome hardware reviews, and he claims this is the best mic preamp ever, which
Nice.
is a big claim, and he
It'll
even
be
says it
interesting. Yes.
himself. Yeah,
Hmm.
but I definitely wanted to check this out and see what kind of options are going on with that.
Hmm.
And then going to the drummers, a lot of drummers these days are finger drummers more than stick
Nice.
drummers, and Yamaha's come out with a couple of new ones that really look exciting. I mean, I
Very
used to,
interesting button layout.
yeah, that's the thing that caught my attention too, the way that they arrange things looks intuitive.
Hmm. Exactly.
That one comes from Yamaha's global site,
Hmm.
and me, the keyboardist, I mean, I have been looking at this since it came out. It's one of those synth solutions that they throw everything and the kitchen sink into this synth software solution. The nice thing when you get Contact is you get the full blown software, and they've got a keyboard that really complements it, and I really want one.
Yeah, I
If
want one
you
too.
are listening out there, Contact, well, I would love to try it out.
I mean, I'm a bass player, but I want one anyway.
And then continuing with the synths, this was one that I've been trying to get in for one of the nights, just to get some of that retro synth history that like I grew up with, and why I got into synthesizers was some of the things he's going to be showing and how the synth has evolved throughout its history.
Mhm.
And that's
Nice.
Dr. Mix.
Yep. I think we have that one hiding in the stove.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't delete it. I kept that one in the stove, let it
Yep.
cook a little more.
Nice.
And Nectar, I've been swearing by Nectar when it comes to mixing vocals. It's Nectar 3 was such a time saver for me. Still using it, but now I can't wait to see what they've done with Nectar 4. iZotope coming
Hmm.
straight from them. They're going to show us what Nectar 4 is bringing to the table.
Nice. Good, solid all around stuff.
Yep. And if we got time at the end, a little retrospective on speakers, something that we
Nice.
sometimes take for granted and don't talk as much about, but it's an important part of music, especially when you're doing performances and stuff. And you know, the king of speakers has always been JBL.
Hmm.
So
Yes,
Just
indeed.
Audio, another fresh channel. I really dig his content. He's gonna tell us what really happened to JBL, and it's not bad. I thought like, what happened to JBL? They still kick ass.
Exactly. And he says yes.
Yeah, I think he's going to.
Mhm. Nice.
And they've just gotten smaller.
Hmm. Indeed. Smaller, but powerful and clear. I mean, I can tell you that for sure.
Yeah, you must have at least a couple of them in the arsenal, right?
The two that I keep in my car are the two JBL mains, and not the mains that we use every day, but like the mains that we would use. We use them mostly as a drum monitor because it's got that nice bottom end. So it's very large, so it's tough to find a spot for it necessarily. But once if you got the real estate to put it in, very solid. And we also use it if we need to do like a side splash when we're doing outdoor gigs over the summer, and we need to have a main crowd here, but we also have people in beach chairs way over there or whatever. I can set up one on a pole and point it that way, and one on another pole and point it that way, and we're basically able to send a full enough signal out everywhere that's well represented. And wherever he has the subs, that's putting out enough sub energy to fill the whole field anyway. It's good stuff.
They carry the sound.
Oh yeah, always been a fan of JBLs. I think we use a mix though. I mean, I did show you a picture not too long ago of one of the festivals that we did where we lined up basically as we were packing out at the end of the night. We just put all the speakers at the edge of the stage, and we just had so many speakers that it's just this big wall going down the edge of the stage. So we just took a picture of it just to for later to check it out. And you'll be like, okay, we got the JBLs here, we got the Mackies over there, we got this over here. Basically seeing how the whole setup goes. But it's like those two mains, one big Mackie. And one smaller Mackie were all in my car, and then basically everything else was all in Mike's car.
A literal wall of sound.
Yeah, and that's because that's with what's in his car, in his one Jeep Renegade. I think it's a Renegade, SUV basically Jeep. But he's able to get both subwoofers, both mains on his side, 5 monitors, all the wires, all the snakes, a small table stand, tarps in case it rains. I mean, all that gets in that car. So like when we finish out at the end of the night, people see how much crap we've got, and they see the 2 cars that we pulled up in. They're like, nah, there's no way they're going to get it all in there. But sure enough, we get it all in there and we get out of there.
I played Tetris as a kid.
Yep. And then he starts to figure out, he's like, he's got like 6 inches of room here and like a foot there. And he's like, I know I could fit one more thing right over here. And he's thinking about what he could put there. Like, what could I bring that could fill that spot? Because everything, if it fits just right and you've always got the same pack every time, then number one, if anything's missing. Because if something's sliding around, it's like, okay, wait, something's missing that's supposed to be holding that over there. It's the T-stand. Oh, where'd that go? And like, oh, it's leaning over there. Would have left without it. But because of the fact that we had it leaning up in that one spot, or because of the fact that it holds the one thing in the car, from sliding, you can tell that there's something missing.
No equipment left behind.
Nothing, no soldier left behind. Yep, exactly. Not even a mic stand.
Yep.
All right, so this one, we'll start out with the importance of the trackball.
Yeah, for those of you who are limited with desktop space and you don't necessarily have the space to move a mouse around, trackballs don't need to get moved, although I've seen people try to like move them like mice, but trackballs are nice, space friendly, and when it comes to music editing and video editing and things like that, they have advantages to really speed up your editing time. So
I'm a fan of even just being able to pick it up like this and have my fingers are in the right spots. I can put it back down anywhere I want and use the thumb and then just pick it back up and relocate somewhere else. And
I've used mine on my knee.
Yeah, that's what I do a lot of the time.
Yep.
On the knee there, and you have the keyboard just above it, across both knees, or just on a table or chair or whatever. You can get comfortable anywhere with using this. But again, I like the I always went with the the wired one for so many years because I always was against using wireless in any way. But this one, even with when you go wireless, it's still plenty of battery life, lasts long enough, no interruptions. I've had no problems at all with them.
Yeah, it's one of the few things that I don't mind being wireless.
Mm-hmm. And it is tech you can't live without.
Yes, the channel attracted me there. Like, yes, this is tech I can't live without.
and they went right in our lane. I mean, we both use this mouse, and like most people, or this trackball essentially, most people that I run into do not use this one. And if they did, come over or whatever and wanted to use the mouse, they'd like look at it and be like, you do it. They were like, they might have at first been like, hey, mind if I blah, blah, blah. And they go to use the machine and then they see that mouse and like, never mind. Because they're just used to
Use my machines because they don't know how to control them.
Yep. But yeah, I can go back and forth though. I mean, whether it's this or a regular mouse, we've had to deal with all of it. I've had some pretty interesting ones, like one where there was like a roller bar below the keyboard, so that for the up and down, and then the roller itself would slide back and forth, left and right, and then that's what's controlled the cursor. So it kind of you just like kind of move your arm in the general vicinity or the general idea of where you wanted the cursor to go, and it would just kind of go there.
Yeah, and then they do make a lot of different types of trackballs. So it's the kind of thing that you really want to be able to go in the store and kind of feel it out. What may work for, like the ones we're using, the Logitech ones, they're nice because they're designed like for your hand, but some are more designed with the bigger balls, and I'm not a fan of those.
I did work with one guy who used that one, and I saw, for certain things, for very precise movement, if you're just doing very precise movement all day, the larger one actually is easier to do small precise motion with. The one that's like the size almost of a tennis ball, but not quite.
Yeah.
And it's right in the middle.
The only time I found those useful was when I was doing 3D and like CAD.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff.
And this guy was doing, he was the one who was shuffling out the tickets for tech support. So he was just literally in the ticketing system all day, having to click on, very small fields, click here, type in this, click there, type on that. So for him, it was perfect to be able to, very easily target where he was trying to get to.
Yeah, it's nice for precision in those cases.
But yeah, I wouldn't use that as my everyday though. But it's a preference thing. But yes, we definitely are the market for the TrackMan, because I've been enjoying that for many, many years. It's been my go-to.
I've over 20 years at this point. I have the red balled ones still sitting, and I won't throw them away. I won't throw them away because if these break, I at least can go back to it.
And the problems I had with when they did break, for me, it was always because like I managed to drop it off of I'd managed to drop it, and one of the mouse buttons would stop functioning, stop responding. But I've also had them like come back where I broke one, so I had gotten another one at some point, and then when that one broke, I went back to the first one and just kind of smacked it around a little bit and managed to get the button responsive again. So a little percussive maintenance brought it, resurrected it back to life after who knows how long. But those buttons shouldn't be that difficult to fix as far as that goes.
Every one that I've had technically break, the left starts double clicking.
And that you can maybe even get around that a little bit just by adjusting the double click speed in the operating system, but
I've tried, and it's a little annoying when you accidentally are double clicking. So that's why they're in the back now.
Well, I also deal with people who they just in general have issues with double clicking when they're dealing with tech, whether it's, someone of my parents' generation or whatever the issue is. Like sometimes it's like you tell them, okay, double click. And so they'll double right click, or their double click will be like click. I'm like, that's not a double click.
That's
I'm like, that's clicking twice. There's a difference between a double click and clicking twice. But yes. And they kept like every time I would say to click this or double click that, they would always ask right click. And I'm always like, if I ever want right click, I will say right click, but otherwise it's always just going to be that left click. And it sounds mean. Like I'm not saying like, but it's more just,
believe me, I have been through the same motion.
But it's like, no, if it's ever going to be a right click, I'll tell you to right click here or right click there, as opposed to click here or double click there. But that's all the techie stuff. But for the clicking, we should probably see what they're going to say about the Trackball, the best trackball mouse for gaming and editing 2023. Let's click it up.
Hey guys, in this video we're going to look at the top 5 trackballs available on the market today. We made this list based on our own opinion, research, and customer reviews. We've considered their quality, features, and values when narrowing down the best choices possible. If you want more information and updated pricing on the products mentioned, be sure to check the links in the description box below. So, here are the top 5 best trackballs. The 5th product on our list is the Kensington Orbit Trackball. Design-wise, the Kensington Orbit Trackball is a little smaller in dimension than the rest of the trackballs included in our list. You can choose between black with a blue trackball or white with a silver trackball. Whichever option you choose, you will end up with one of the most elegant trackballs on the market today. This trackball comes with a great overall build and design, concentrated on a comfortable grip, making it comfortable and easy to control even if this is your first time using one. The ball included gives the exact amount of traction needed to provide a great user experience. As for precision, the Orbit's internal red optics provide precise cursor movement for superior accuracy, so you can get where you want on the screen quickly with less hand movement, improving your productivity and efficiency. The Kensington Orbit Trackball can be connected only via USB. This means you won't need to worry about changing batteries. However, if you travel a lot and you would like to bring your trackball, it can be inconvenient to use. Its pros are: it has a compact and stylish design, it is highly accurate, it is comfortable to use, and it has an affordable price. However, the con is that it is missing the Bluetooth option to connect it to your devices. To sum it up, if you are buying your first trackball just to see if this is for you, the great features and the Kensington Orbit Trackball's affordable price point makes it an excellent option for you. Up next in the 4th place is the Logitech MX Ergo Wireless Trackball Mouse. Design-wise, the Logitech MX Ergo is attractive and comfortable. With a unique adjustable hinge to choose the best angle for you between 0 and 20 degrees, offering personalized comfort for anyone's preference. The Ergo has a sleek matte finish, apart from the trackball, which has a glittery shimmer. This trackball is positioned on the mouse's left side, making it usable only with your right thumb, hence unusable for the left-handed users. As with other Logitech devices, the MX Ergo supports the Logitech Options software, which allows you to reprogram the MX Ergo's buttons and set them to behave differently based on the applications you're using. When it comes to connecting it to your device, as with most recent wireless Logitech devices, you have two options. Via the Logitech Unifying USB receiver, which comes included in the package, or via Bluetooth, which is a bit slower and sometimes not as reliable as the 2.4 GHz USB receiver. Its pros are: it has a unique adjustable hinge to choose the best angle for any user. It's made with excellent quality in mind, and it can connect to your device wirelessly. However, the cons are: the price is on the higher end, and left-handed users will be disappointed, as this is a right-handed only configuration. To sum it up, if you're looking for an ergonomic and feature-rich trackball, the Logitech MX Ergo is the right choice for you. Still haven't found the trackball that meets your needs? Well, keep watching, because we have more lined up for you. Meanwhile, if this is your first time visiting our channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to receive notifications of our next videos. The third product on our list is the Elecom M-XT4DRBK trackball. Elecom is the only brand that offers a left-handed trackball, the Elecom M-XT4DRBK wireless trackball. Left-handed users can also get an ambidextrous trackball, which is symmetrical, so it can be used by both left and right-handed people. However, some may prefer to have the trackball to the mouse's right-hand side, and here is where the Elecom option comes in. Aside from that, the M-XT4DRBK was designed based on 6 specific points in the hand and how the muscles and skeletal system interact. This design gives it a more natural, comfortable feeling, making it a perfect option every day. Elecom trackball is built somewhat similar to an ordinary mouse. It's got a basic 3.7 by 4.9 by 1.9 inch build with the standard mouse layout. Plus, on the left, the trackball sets out an angle, which gives a greater movable thumb area, resulting in a much more comfortable trackball operation. This Elecom trackball has included a 2-level DPI switch, giving you adjustable pointer speed and 6 programmable buttons for specific functions. It has a high-performance optical sensor, a pulse tilt wheel so that you can scroll from side to side or flip landscape screens, and the trackball is detachable for easy cleaning. Its pros are: the ergonomic design allows long-term comfort, it is easy to clean and maintain, and it has an affordable price. However, it is not the best for those with large hands. The Elecom M-XT4DRBK feels good in your hand. It has the right amount of additional programmable buttons, and it is made for left-handed users, which is a rare option to find on the market today. The second product on our list is the Logitech Trackman Marble. Design-wise, this Logitech trackball is very simple but comfortable and well designed. the ball is positioned in the center, which makes it suited for left-handed and right-handed users. This Logitech trackball is made of excellent materials. It feels incredible and well built, and its price is affordable. The extended broad palm area and gently contoured shape provide maximum support and comfort for either hand, ideal for anyone who spends long hours working at the computer. The Logitech Marble has two main buttons, which you can program or use as left click and right click, and two small buttons above the large buttons. With the Logitech Control Center software, each button can be customized to perform any task. Its pros are: it has a very smooth performance, it has an ambidextrous design, and it comes at an affordable price. However, the cons are: it doesn't come with a scroll wheel or scrolling option, which limits its usage, and the button sensitivity is not that precise. To sum up, the Logitech Marble is very cheap, but also very good. If you don't want to spend a lot of money and don't need the scrolling option, this trackball will give you a great user experience. Before we reveal number 1, be sure to check out the description below for the newest deals on each of these items. And be sure to subscribe if you want to stay up to date on the best products on the market. Finally, our top trackball is the Kensington Slim Blade trackball. Design-wise, the Slim Blade is one of the most beautiful trackballs available today. It is made of high-quality materials with a metallic dark gray plastic and a shiny chrome ring around the huge metallic dark red ball. The low-profile design is more similar to Apple design rather than the design found on other models. The Kensington Slim Blade has 4 buttons, and they are uniquely integrated into the body. When you are using it in the default navigation mode, the lower 2 buttons have the same function as the left and right mouse buttons, while the ball allows you to move the cursor in any direction, plus scroll up and down. The remaining 2 buttons are used to switch to the 2 additional modes of view and media. Plus, Kensington offers a free software that provides an even more personalized experience, giving you the ability to assign a wide variety of program functions to each of the 4 buttons and adjust cursor and scrolling speeds. The installation of this trackball is super easy. Just plug it in and you are ready to go. It can be connected only via USB and is missing the Bluetooth option. This means you won't need to worry about changing batteries. However, it also means you'll need to connect the cable, which can be inconvenient if you're traveling a lot with your laptop. Its pros are: it looks sleek and stylish. It is ergonomic and comfortable to use. It has customizable buttons, and it has precise tracking. However, the cons are: it does not support Bluetooth connection, and it is expensive. To sum it up, the Kensington Slim Blade is our number 1 for a reason. It looks great, feels fantastic to work with, and best of all, it is very accurate. It is definitely our recommendation for professional or heavy users, or just anyone looking for the best trackball experience. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. If we helped you out in any way, please hit the like and subscribe button. We'll see you guys in the next videos.
Oh, that helped me out a lot.
Right. Some good options there. Yeah, that
Well,
one that they
a
showed.
couple of new ones that I wasn't familiar with. I mean, that Elecon,
Mhm.
definitely interesting alternative to the Logitech, except no good for you because big hands.
Yeah. Plus, that was the one that had the lefties, right? So that was the one that basically found that spot in the market, because everybody else, anybody makes the right ones, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of options for lefties. Not that I was looking for a lefty one, but for me, the righty is the way to go. But by somebody finding that and saying, "Hey, we're going to make those," that's a good spot for them to jump into.
I'm left-handed, but I don't think I could use a left-handed. I can't use a left-handed mouse. I don't think a left-handed trackball would feel any. This thumb is not as controllable for me as this one after decades of using the right-handed.
You definitely get used to doing it this way, but having done as much tech support as I've done, I mean, I had to sit at a lot of desks, and a lot of, you do run into people that are lefties, you run into people that have odd input things, different new mouse gadgets that they bought to try out. A lot of times, the call you'd be getting is, "Hey, I got this thing. I need to hook it up," and blah blah blah. And it's like, okay. Some places that's fine. Some places it's like, nope, can't install any drivers. It's got to be, it's got to come from the manufacturer. It's got to be part of the build, whatever. If it's going to be something new coming in, it's got to clear whoever. But other places, it's like, yeah, just we'll grab it and we'll put it in there, no problem. So it depends on the type of a place that you're in. But the main thing was just get used to, whether it's lefty, whether it's righty, you got your buttons backwards. People let you know, like, oh, my buttons are backwards. Nobody can use my mouse. Like, oh, I'll figure it out. And just, it's like, it's not that much math. This one instead of that one. Like, I got it.
Well, you got to reprogram the brain.
Yeah. There's a little bit of reprogramming there, but it doesn't, it's doable is the main thing. Now, would I try to play a video game that way? No. I mean,
yeah,
I'm getting shot in the face all the time, but I mean, to do menial tasks, just, navigate around and do things, I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't see these being popular with the gamers.
Well, people hear that you're using that as they see that you're playing, like a first person shooter, and most people they're playing with a controller because, most people do. But if they see that you're on a computer and they see, oh, you're playing with mouse and keyboard, and then it's like, oh, it's not even mouse and keyboard. It's one of these. It's you're using this trackball and keyboard, and they're like, I was like, oh, like how does that even work? And it's like, I mean, it works great. I mean, it's perfect. You use the thumb to aim. You just kind of rock your hand back and forth, moving that thumb back and forth.
Well, if you get one of the really precise ones, I could see that being useful on the gaming side. But again, I think with the way that gamers tend to want to do things, the mouse does lend itself better there.
Well, they would also a lot of times just go to a controller also, depending on what kind of game it is.
Yeah.
Some would swear by the controllers, but I mean, you can get more precision with a mouse and keyboard, but it's also different issues in terms of carpal tunnel. Like in some cases, I've had times where I was playing so many hours of a controller based game, whether it was on a computer or on a console. And then, that I would have, I would start to get weary in the hands and wrists and have to stop playing because, the hands are getting too tired or whatever. And then there's other times that you get the same issues, but in a different way by using the keyboard and mouse too much. And a lot of it depends on the ergonomics of your setup. That's the important thing is figuring out that you do something that makes it comfortable, because if you're going to be playing for, 4 or 5 hours, whatever it is, do something where you can get yourself comfortable so that you're not causing yourself pain and damage after the fact.
Your hand turns into a permanent claw.
that last one that they were showing, very sleek. I like that design with the 4 buttons. I mean, that one, it reminded me of Darth Vader's ship compared to a regular TIE fighter or whatever. It was very, very sleek and flattened and had that really cool look to it.
Yeah, but again, it's the big bald ones like that. I like doing it with the thumb. For me, it's very comfortable. The alternates that have the big balls, none of those appeal to me with the workflow that I do. The ergo, I'm a little confused with Logitech now, because in the old days, the marble was these when they were wired USB. Now they're calling
that larger one is the marble,
and no scroll.
Now that larger one that they showed, that was the one marble with the buttons on the sides.
Who decided that scroll was something that wasn't going to be important, because it could not function without scrolling these days?
To me, the idea would be on that one where it's the large ball in the center with the buttons on the sides. They said they could program those buttons. My thought would be that one of those buttons is that you hold that button and it turns the ball into a scroll. So that it would be like, while you're holding this button, you then move the ball and it's a scroll.
Yeah, see, maybe I could get used to that, but I don't like scroll lock. If I did, I would already be using it. I love that wheel. Now that it's there, I don't ever want it to go away.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that another thing from the gaming side is a lot of people will get the whether it's a Razer mouse or they get different types of input devices that have tons of buttons. A lot of times it's on the thumb. So what we're using our thumb on the ball there, they would have instead a pad of maybe 9 buttons that are all right there on the side of the mouse, in addition to your regular mouse stuff that's going on the top. You've already got your scroll wheel, you've already got your left click, your right click going on the top, but then by your thumb, they have a fast action pad of a whole bunch of different buttons that you can program specifically for doing video game stuff. Yeah, so people are already getting used to doing some of that.
Rick's got one of those Razers. It's got 19 programmable buttons on the side.
Exactly. And you can set them all to do, I want this one to do this one to do that. I mean, getting yourself programmed to be able to use them all is what it comes down to at that point. But But I do get how like
I'll
certain
be
games.
accidentally hitting those buttons.
Well, in most cases, it wouldn't matter because in most, in most applications or most programs, they're probably not doing anything. But if you were playing a specific game, then you have, oh, this one casts this spell, or this one, opens up this inventory, or this one brings up that list of plays, or whatever. There's, all kinds of different things that each one could be. But being able to have them all come up, having all the touch of a button is the thing.
He's definitely programmed every one of those.
For me, I actually use the keyboard for that because I have the G510, so it's got like the 18 G keys on the side. So in addition to just like the whole regular keyboard, like everything you've normally got on a keyboard's all over here, and then I've got another bank of 18 keys on the side that I can program and put whatever I want. Plus, you can light up the keyboard, so I keep it in blue or red or green or whatever.
Oh, that's another one we'll have to look at one night. I'll check. I bet you they probably got a keyboard one on this channel.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
We'll take a look at that. At Techs you can't live without.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Quick little look into the input devices.
I'm ready to go get one of those ergos.
Yep. And me, I mean, this reminds me how much I like the trackball, the TrackMan that I use, as opposed to, like you said, as opposed to the one design where it's mostly in the middle. But I could see using something like that last one. I have used that one before that. That was the more narrow version where it was the large ball in the center and the two on the sides. I've used that occasionally. But, that was more like in passing. I used it as like, I could see, I can get around, I can navigate, whatever, but I wouldn't make it my main thing. But I guess depends on the application, like I said.
Yeah. And I do actually use both in conjunction. I have a mouse and a trackball hooked up to my main workstations because sometimes one is better for some things and sometimes one is. With the keyboard, I love the trackball because it can put it right here and I don't need to be. It's not good to be moving around. There's not a lot of space when I'm actually working on the music. Yeah, but that's where the wireless TrackMan, again, can't say enough about it because I can just take it off the thing, put it in my lap, and it takes it out of the equation of whatever the desk is set up for. So and that's why that Elecon was interesting to me because not only does it have wired support, but having the Bluetooth support is not a bad thing, especially if I was still like lugging a laptop around and I'd rather just connect Bluetooth with the laptop on the road than have to worry about the dongle that oh, I forgot my dongle at home. That shit out of luck.
Yeah. And that thing for me, I usually use desktop machines instead of laptops. So my machine's not leaving the house, so my keyboard's not leaving, or my mouse not leaving the house. Like it's all here. When I used the TrackMan at work, it was just I brought one to work, and that was my work. That's the work one. Or I got one there. I said, hey, time to get a new mouse. I was like, well, let's get that one for me. Like I'll do that.
Oh yeah, I made all the places I work get me a trackball.
Oh yeah. I mean, you want me to be productive? Let's get this. Now, what do we got coming up here? The physics of electric guitars, I believe.
A little bit of science and how guitars work, which I'm curious. Like, what is the magic behind an electric guitar and how it does what it does? And this channel is very cool when it comes to science, minute physics.
Nice.
I figured you'd like this one. And he is at Minute Physics over on YouTube.
Don't worry if you missed the talk about the mouse ball. We'll have it. It's in the replay, so you can catch it up on YouTube later.
Yeah, and hopefully I might get a couple of them and let you know how the experience goes.
We'll revisit the mice versus trackball debate.
Oh, look at this. The topics he has. Yes, this is a science channel.
Nice.
Who also happens to talk about music sometimes. And the bizarre physics of electric guitar.
Let's see what that's all about.
I didn't know it was bizarre.
It can be. But you got to play like a diminished chord for that, and then it sounds bizarre. We'll see. Little bizarre.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
I was recently sent this guitar pick, which has created a bit of a controversy on the internet. The creators of it claim that it allows you to play the guitar without touching the strings. The critics say it's all a hoax or a fraud. Now, I know that playing the guitar without touching the strings is actually possible. It uses something called an EBow, which interacts with the strings via magnetic fields, and this pick is essentially just a very strong magnet in the shape of a guitar pick. But the question is, does it actually work? Or if it does work, does it work very well? Let's find out. I just went to a guitar store and played with this pick on a bunch of guitars. I couldn't really get it to actually generate any sound of the strings without touching the strings. It modulates the pickups because pickups are magnetic, so if you put it near the pickups, you can kind of get some sound. So take the string sound and make it quieter as opposed to making it louder. If you're in a situation where the guitar strings are already vibrating, then the pick might actually have some musical function. All right, I managed to get my hands on a guitar, so let's see what we can find out about the pick. You can see that the pick does affect what's going on with the pickup. The question is, what happens when you actually play a little bit louder? I'm going to play a note on one side and then put the pick near the pickup on the other side. Just to make sure it's not my hand vibrating, I will do the same thing without the pick in my hand. The key thing is that the pick does not make the strings move, the pick modulates the pickup. You have to make the strings move with your hand on the strings or using the pick to strum like a normal pick. So just as a demo of this, I'm gonna play hard onto the strings. The left hand creates the vibrations, the right hand modulates the sound. You can pick at the same time the left hand is hitting the strings, and it will look like it's the pick that's doing the work, but it's actually the left hand. Okay, let's do a brief overview of how electric guitars work. The device that captures or picks up the signal in an electric guitar is called the pickup. It's these things here. Pickups turn the physical vibrations of the strings into an electrical signal, hence electric guitar. Electric guitar pickups take advantage of the fact that when you move a magnet near a wire, the changing magnetic field causes electric currents to flow in the wire. This is how electrical generators generate electricity, for example. Spin a magnet inside a coil of wire, and you generate electric current in the wire. In the case of an electric guitar, there's a coil of wire hidden in the pickup, and the strings themselves function as the moving magnets. When a magnetic string vibrates, it generates small electric currents in the wire. Those tiny currents are what a guitar amplifier amplifies into stronger currents, which enter a loudspeaker, which turns the electricity back into sound. But there's one problem. Guitar strings aren't magnetic, at least not on their own. Electric guitar strings are made out of materials like iron or nickel, which can become magnetized if you leave them in a magnetic field, like how rubbing a paperclip on a magnet makes it temporarily able to pick up other paperclips. That's why you have to have magnets inside electric guitar pickups. These little circles are the ends of the magnets that magnetize the strings and therefore turn them into the moving magnets that are needed to generate electrical currents in the wire inside the pickup. Really, these things should be called electromagnetic guitars. But the pickup doesn't just pick up the motion of the guitar strings. Any other magnet that's moving near the pickups will also generate electrical currents, which will be amplified by the guitar amplifier. And this is what's happening with the magnetic pick. To show you it is really just magnets, I have here a stack of magnets. These are going to work just as well. have a regular pick, and I have a little neodymium magnet, and I'm going to tape these together. It couldn't be more crude. It works. Okay, so we're going to record the guitar straight into an external recorder, no amps involved, and see if we can still achieve the same effects that come from using the magnetic pick. Feel kind of silly here, just like swinging this pick through midair with no sound coming out. I recorded the raw signal out of the guitar, and I'm just going to put that straight back into the effects pedal and through the amp. This test shows that the pick doesn't affect the amp or the effects pedal, and they don't affect the pick, because we get the same picking sound just by playing a raw recording of the guitar through the pedal and amp. I'm going to play music with the non-magnetic pick, and then I'm just going to use the magnetic pick to create a signal through the pickups, and then I will combine them after the fact so you can see it's really the post-processing that's creating the sound of the magnetic pick. Here we go with the regular pick. And now we have the magnetic pick. I can't hear anything at all. The point here is to show unequivocally that the magnetic pick doesn't play the strings. We can play the strings alone and strum the pickup separately, and then combine those signals and still get the same strumming sound as if the magnetic pick were picking the strings. But it's not. It's just a magnet messing with a guitar pickup. So what are my final thoughts on this pick? It does not work the way it's advertised to work, but it does create the effects that it is advertised to create. You can see why it would be confusing. The impression you get when you watch the promo materials, at least the impression I first got, and clearly lots of other people too, is that the magnetic pick somehow moves the strings and allows you to pick from far away, which it doesn't. The pick does help create all the effects shown in the promo materials though, just not by moving the strings, which is certainly a confusing situation. The magnetic pick works because it interacts with the pickup, generates a very loud, low-frequency signal pulse, which then passes through carefully crafted signal processing to achieve the desired musical effects. And since many people don't understand how or why it works, they're arguing about it a lot. The magnetic pick isn't a scam, in the sense that it can indeed reproduce all the sounds and musical effects that the creators show in their promo materials. Yes, it seems a bit overpriced for what it actually is, a magnet in the shape of a guitar pick. And yes, all the effects it produces are created by signal processing after the signal leaves the guitar, rather than on the guitar itself, which is why you can add in the effects after the fact. But there are three things that kind of maybe justify the price. First, it's a magnet and guitar pick in one, so you don't have to use a pick and magnet glued together, or whatever. And two, to be honest, the sound of almost all electric guitars is also created with signal processing after the signal leaves the guitar. So yeah, you can't use this without effects processing, but that's the world of electric guitar. Third, and most importantly, I think the price is kind of justified by the fact that the creators have put a huge amount of intellectual time into developing the playing techniques and post-processing effects that make the magnetic pick work. And that is really what you're paying for. So in summary, this magnetic pick is horribly explained by the people who make it, which has led a lot of people to be confused about how it works and to use it incorrectly and to think it's a scam. It does actually do the things that the creators show you that it can do, and it can provide capacity for new creative musical expression. The physics is simple, the human relations are complicated. I did a lot of hands-on investigation for this video. It's one of the best ways to figure things out, and it's how this video's sponsor, Brilliant.org, helps you learn by interactively exploring math and science. Brilliant has thousands of lessons from basic computer programming to physics to AI. Want a hands-on intro to neural networks? They've got it. Special relativity? Got that too. Go to brilliant.org/minutephysics to get a free 30-day trial, and the first 200 people will get 20% off an annual subscription. Again, that's brilliant.org/minutephysics, and thanks to Brilliant for their support. one of the potential drawbacks of this pick is that because it sticks to the strings, it does kind of make picking a little bit weirder because the strings actually move up towards the pick when you start playing. And so they kind of attach to it in a way that's kind of unnatural or odd. But, you know, it's a very pointy pick, probably good for metal or something, where you're playing a lot of really fast notes and you want some pointy precision.
That's a whole new meaning to air guitar.
Yeah, and the short answer is magnets. That's all it's all about. It's all about magnets.
Well, I'm surprised I didn't come across that when we were doing that picking night, when we were looking at all the different stuff. I had no idea there was a magnetic pick.
Yeah, I could imagine that, like he was describing there, not so much the pick, the strings coming up to the pick, but like almost the strings being, let's quote unquote, sticky, like magnetically sticky. Like when you make contact and then it's trying to let go, it's like actually magnetically trying to still hang on. So it would be weird trying to, like, if you try to go your regular speed of picking, even if the pick was a comfortable thickness as picks, because some people like a very thin pick, some people like a very thick pick. I don't know. That one looks like it would probably be kind of thicker to maintain.
It's metal, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's not going to be razor thin though. It's not going to be, you know, like a razor blade. Because I mean, I have some that are like super flimsy, but then I have other ones that are very chunky. And I think, you know, the fattest it was probably would be like one of the felt ones, like the one we talked about before. That's like not a standard pick that you would find most places, but the felt one, the leather one, the ones that are like 2 millimeter, like those, I describe them as like a ceramic tile because they're just very fat, very solid. They have no give at all. So like they're not, the pick's not getting out of the way of the strings are getting out of the way of the pick. Where some people use a very floppy or flimsy pick, where the idea is the pick is really bending, you know, almost 90 degrees as you're picking through everything.
Well, I'd love to see like some guitarists out there who are using this and what they're using it for.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's right with the like metal. If you're going to do metal, I would have loved to have seen Jimi Hendrix get his hands on something like that.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, in some cases, like what he was doing, you know, there was some wah effect that you could kind of get out of that. There's some you know, phase effect. There's different ways you could utilize that, where you would be physically using it as a pick, doing the picking, and then also adding those embellishments to the note. Like you hit one note, and like he was doing, then air the guitar, you go wow wow wow, and get that kind of a sound out of it. That way, you're not having to change a pedal or change an effect or whatever. It's just happening for you.
So a guitarist who would use something like this would be one who's looking for that kind of nuance.
Could be, yeah. And uni, yeah, that one is kind of thick. And again, some people, they do prefer you know, a very, very thick pick. Like a jazz guy would probably use a smaller pick and a thicker pick in a lot of cases. But it depends on personal preference too. I mean, you know, a lot of people play just finger style and, you know, don't play picks much at all. You can make whatever sound you want with just about anything, but certain ones are easier to make. Like it's easier to get a more harsh sound if that's what you're looking for. I would think with a thicker pick, because you're just able to just like attack through the strings. And again, the strings have to get out of the way of that pick rather than the pick kind of flopping through them as a thinner pick would.
Yep. So that was at Minute Physics over on YouTube, and I'm definitely going to check out that brilliant.org.
Oh yeah, that's one that I've seen you know, in a lot of places, and for sure they have a lot of good stuff at Brilliant.
Yeah, it looks very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
We like science.
Science is great, and you know, you could spend days on Brilliant, honestly, just you know, looking at all kinds of good stuff, and you get smarter every time.
I have to if I'm going to hang with you.
Now this one though, this one's not necessarily about smart stuff. Some of these are stupid.
This is about stupid stuff.
It happens though.
And it's a new channel. As I was coming across, you know, it's nice depending on the topics, like finding some good new resources gets easier and easier, especially with our algorithm now, like
well trained.
Our YouTube channel like definitely is on the ball for our interests.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And this one comes from at Robert W. Jackson.
And like Uni said, he had a good approach of going through systematically different ways of testing the item and seeing how it worked, reporting results, all that. Good technique as far as all that goes.
Yeah, that's what I like looking for stuff like this, the channels that have the great reviews, that the user tests the equipment out and really, like, you know, covers it, those are the best resources before you go spending your money.
And
So
for this one,
what Robert's going to be talking about is ridiculous trends he's been noticing with guitars lately, which I didn't realize there were guitar trends. Not being a guitarist myself, I don't know. Like, what's changed with the guitars lately?
yeah, let's find out. Ridiculous trends in the guitar industry. And these are stupid.
Emphasize.
There's some strange trends going on here recently in the guitar industry. That's what we're going to talk about in this video today. That's right, this video is about 6 trends that I've noticed here recently in the guitar community. Some of these trends are probably warranted. Some of these trends I think are placebo effect. And by placebo effect, that's a nice way of me saying guitar players are the biggest sheeple on the planet and oftentimes completely incapable of thinking for themselves. Let's get to it, shall we? Number 1, the Boss Metal Zone. This is probably the most well-known example of this phenomenon. For some reason, the Boss Metal Zone went through a period there of about 10 years when, when the guitar community, particularly on the interwebs, decided that the Boss Metal Zone was just the biggest piece of dog shit pedal that anybody had ever seen before in their life. Never mind the fact that the Boss Metal Zone is the number 2 best-selling pedal in Boss's entire history. Number 1 only being the TU2, TU3, the tuner pedal. That's how many metal zones that Boss has sold. An absolute shit ton, and also why that pedal is still in production today with its original design intact. In response to the internet suddenly clowning on the metal zone for so many years, Boss responded by saying, "Okay, assholes, we're going to show you just how great this circuit actually is," and brought out the WharZ version. If you've not heard this pedal, this is one of the best high-gain metal distortion pedals on the market today, with the exact same circuit as the original, just higher-end upgraded components. And that, combined with the fact that metalheads suddenly learned how to use the return port of the effects loop to bypass the amp's preamp section, have suddenly produced the opposite phenomenon, and now all of a sudden the metal zone is back to god tier status. Meanwhile, people like me who grew up learning to play metal guitar in the 90s with that pedal have always loved the metal zone. I always have, I always will. And if you are a longtime viewer of this channel, you already know that. Number 2, PV Sheffield speakers. This is a more recent example of the metal zone phenomenon that I just talked about. And I have no idea where it came from. Because once upon a time, the PV Sheffield was regarded by many, many people as PV's greatest guitar speaker. Eddie Van Halen himself used them quite a bit back in the 90s, obviously because they were designed for him. And lots of other people did as well. I think likely what happened is somebody in a guitar group on the interwebs out there somewhere suddenly said PV Sheffield suck, and then a few hundred other people read it, and then all of a sudden repeated it, and now all of a sudden we don't like Sheffield speakers anymore, which is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. By the way, I have a Sheffield speaker in my 6505 Plus combo sitting right here across the room in front of me that I just recorded a video with last week. If you want to know how that speaker actually sounds, there's a link to that video down in the description. Then come back and tell me what's wrong with it. Now look, I get it. If you legitimately don't like that speaker, fine. I'm not disputing that. I'm not saying everybody should like what I like or anybody else for that matter. But seriously, suddenly, just over the last year or so many people suddenly complaining about the Sheffield. Come on, man. Quit following the damn crowd so much. Number 3, Celestion Vintage 30s. This is the opposite of the PV Sheffield effect, because this is the speaker that metal guitar players in particular all seem to have. Why? Because it is regarded as the metal sound, among other genres, but metal in particular. Glenn Fricker's talked about this here recently on his channel, and this is one that I do agree with him on. Vintage 30s are not the only speaker out there for metal. Vintage 30 clones, like the Veteran 30 from Warehouse Guitar Speakers, are not the only speakers out there for metal tones. Experiment, try some different things. You might actually find something off the beaten path from Eminence or JBL or Warehouse guitar speakers, among others, that you might actually enjoy. Number 4, heavy gauge guitar strings. I do not understand what is with guitar players' obsession with having to get the heaviest gauge of guitar strings that they can possibly muster onto their guitar. And for any tuning, not just for the heavily low tune stuff. Talk about some serious dick waving. Who was it? I think it was Billy Gibbons, that said, "Why work so hard to play guitar?" Billy Gibbons himself has used a lot of different gauges of guitar strings, but he's probably most well known for using 7s, which is about as light as it gets. I myself, on standard tuned guitars, generally use 8s these days. On guitars tuned a half step down, I generally use 9s, and guitars that are a whole step down and maybe drop C, I usually put 10s on, like my trusty Schecter CR6 that I use in so many of my demo videos. That guitar has 10 to 46 gauge strings on it. I personally happen to enjoy lighter gauge strings. Why? They're easier to play, they tighten up the bottom end a lot more, and like Billy Gibbons said, why work so hard to play guitar? I get it, some people play hard and they gotta use heavier strings to play, to keep from breaking them all the time. I get it. But for the dude that's putting 12s on his standard tuned guitar and making sure everybody knows that he plays 12s on his standard tuned guitar, seriously, dude, what's with the dick waving? Who are you trying to impress? Number 5, YouTube channels. Yes, I'm including myself in this list. How about that? So if you're already pissed off at me because I've already said something that's offended you in this video, guess what? I'm including myself here too. What do I mean by YouTube channels? Well, you think about it, back in the day, when guitar channels were just kind of starting to become popular, you had Fluff, you had Ola England, Keith Merrow, Pete Thorne, and that was really about it. And I guess later on you had guys like Scott Grove, really nice guy by the way, Gearman Dude, and where's he been lately? People like that all came along, and now all of a sudden you got every Tom, Dick, and fuckhead like myself that decides we're going to jump on the YouTube bandwagon just to gain some self-recognition. Okay, now in my case, I had actually stepped away from the guitar business for about 6 months and suddenly realized I got $40,000 worth of gear sitting in here and not doing anything with it. Wasn't playing in a band at the time, so I decided why not go, get a cheap camera and start doing YouTube videos. That's how this channel got started. 8 years later, every single schmuck out there with a guitar, an amp, and a video camera is out there trying to make the world a better place and succeeding very, very, very minimally. Number 6. I'm calling this one the Josh Scott effect. And what am I referring to? Yes, I'm referring to that weird phenomenon that goes on every single time that Josh Scott puts up a video about a pedal and the entire guitar community goes batshit crazy thinking they just hit the lottery because they happen to own it. Remember the Bad Monkey a few months ago? Of course you do. Even if you didn't see that video, and I recommend that you do watch it because it is a great video. Even if you didn't see that video, the whole premise of that video was simply to not worry so goddamn much about the gear that you don't have and just use what you got. And he went through and made the Bad Monkey sound like a Klon and Tube Screamer and a whole bunch of other types of pedals out there that nobody really realized that it could actually sound like. And as a result, within 24 hours of that video, a video of a $59 pedal, by the way, so many people who happen to own that pedal just automatically decided that that thing is now worth $500 or $600, and that's what they were being listed for on Reverb and eBay and every other used gear site that you can think of. All because Josh Scott said it was awesome. I actually did an entire video on this phenomenon, essentially making fun of all the people that reacted this way, and it still blows my mind how many of those people actually had no idea that that video was a direct jab at them. I lost a little bit more respect for humanity that day. Where people come up with this shit, I don't know. It just happens. And it happens right before our eyes. And my job as the creator of this channel is to make sure and put those people on blast so that we, together, as a family, can laugh at them. What other strange guitar community phenomenons have you noticed here lately? Leave a comment down below. I'd love to read about it. Adios.
soundtrack.
Yeah, I like it. Just like the I got a set of those Mammoth 12 sitting there as well. I haven't put them on yet, but that was for the drop tuning. So that was going to be for when we do the experiment on the Dean that I have in the other room over there. But the SG, as Uni was talking about over here, it came with 10s. So I was doing 10s to 10 to 46, I guess, most of the time I had it, and then switched to 9s just recently. And
He
just
was
like you
getting
say,
them for $1 a pack.
yeah, I mean, that's nice. And he was also, like you said, Billy Gibbons was, why you want to work so hard? And that's why some of the people I play with, they've gone all the way down to 7s. And I was playing on that the other day. And if I was just playing guitar all the time and going down to 7s, it would be a bit of an adjustment. But going down from the 5-string bass with that big fat B string and then going down to 7s, it's like they're like super super thin, but it still works out fine. And you just have to really back off on the pressure, which is good. I mean, that's one reason why if somebody's starting out, especially using the 7s, the 8s, easier to play, easier, but it's also easier to bend out of tune. So if you're playing too hard, if you're pressing too hard, you're bending the strings out of tune and then it won't sound right. So it's important to find that balance. Just only press as hard as you need to get the job done.
Well, I like his observations there. His point about like metal and the influence of metal guitarists on some of these trends. Like, it's one of those genres where the guitarists are really looking for specific tones and sounds that do shape the technology that they build guitars with.
Indeed.
More than any other genre when it comes to guitar influence.
Yeah, I've been liking the change to 9s. It's been good.
And he mixed it up there. I mean, he wasn't I thought it was going to be mostly about pedals, but he talked about the speakers, the pedals, the string gauges. These are, I guess, trends that have been happening. I didn't realize it, but yeah, a lot of guitarists I've been hearing are drop tuning and fatter gauges. Yeah, it's been kind of a theme.
And a very important principle there, use what you have. Like the best piece of gear is the piece of gear that you actually have in your possession that you can just plug in and use. And even if that's no piece of gear, I mean, most of the time I'm playing my guitar, it's like my guitar plugged in directly to that little Mackie 4-channel board for the preamp and then right into the computer. So like that's just so I can play with my headphones on and just be able to hit notes and have, hear it in my head and go from there.
And his point about like the influence now with YouTube and in the old days it was word of mouth, so it's not like people just changed overnight their opinions, but now you see like the whole industry start thinking a different way overnight because of the speed at which influence happens.
Mm-hmm.
I like his no nonsense approach. He tells it like it is.
And I haven't done much drop tuning there, Uni. But if I were to drop tune, that's what I got the 12s for, or it was to try it out and just to see how that actually feels playing, 12s down to drop C or whatever, and see what that feels like on a guitar like that. But I'm keeping the SG set the way it is though, which was 10s and now 9s, and the 9s feel great. So I'm taking that.
Glenn is set in his ways.
Well, that's the thing is I'm also open to try new things. That's why I've gotten, when I did get those 12s at the same time, I had gotten 12s. I thought I got 12s, 10s, and 9s all at the same time, but I don't think I got 10s. 10s is what I had been using. And so I got 12s and 9s. So I went like up and down, 9s for the SG to get it and start using those as my standard. I also have the acoustic. I haven't broken it out lately, but I don't remember what I put on there, but it was a pretty standard set for acoustic. And then, then of course the 5-string, the bass. So that's where you get the really, really fat strings. And I don't even remember what the gauge is, but it didn't matter. It's, it's give me the 5-string set. Yeah. Okay. I'll go with those, slap them on there. And sometimes they're good for 2-3 years. I mean, strings on the bass, they last a long time. I even saw videos about boiling the bass strings. I've never done that because once you take the strings off, in my opinion, I'm pretty much done at that point. Like taking them off the instrument, but like they were talking about taking them off and boiling them and getting them that way. They're back to almost like new. I'm like, I'll just go get another set of strings. I mean,
frugal, frugal are we?
Yeah. I think that was in like a bass tips book or whatever that I had gotten when I first got the bass way back when. But I was like, yeah, I was like, okay, so some of these tips are, pretty good, and some of these tips not for me. So yeah, at that point I would be like, I can just get more strings. That's fine.
Well, now, one of the ones we mentioned that brought up some questions was a rubber-based bridge,
Yeah.
which John here is suggesting the vintage sound of modern folk guitars, which I do love folk, and the sound that you get with the acoustics there kind of got me curious as to like what. There's rubber in this.
Yep. We'll see what that's all about.
Yeah, this one came from John Mayer Music at John Mayer over on YouTube. A musician with a camera.
Nice.
And this is not an expensive guitar.
Mm-hmm. Modern folk guitar for super cheap. Let's check it out.
I remember when I bought this little guitar that has a rubber bridge, where the bridge deadens the strings and it sounds really old, and it's just a really kind of writes songs for you in a way.
Are you watching Taylor Swift again?
No. I gotta go. Meet Jim Dandy. I picked it up from Guitar Center. Action is way too high. You can kind of see. See my new guitar?
But what are we doing for dinner?
See my new guitar?
Yes, I see it.
It was $180, which is a lot of money, but for guitars, as you know, not much at all. This is a good test case. My first Amazon order consisted of a spool of rubber that cost $8, an $11 pickup, and a $20 set of D'Addario EC-G25 chrome flat wound electric guitar strings. I'm only attempting this project because of a video I found by Cody Kleinsmith. His playing was lovely, and in the description he mentioned Jeff Tweedy, Taylor Swift, Ariel Posen, and he provided a parts list and even a Google Doc. I also found this guy whose overalls made me very jealous. Had it not been for this project, I never would have bought this particular guitar from the store. The action was crazy high. We are way up high. I Googled standard string height for acoustic guitar, somewhere between 2.5 and 3 millimeters. And I was at 3.5. I'm gonna go ahead and be crazy and take a millimeter off. And YouTube says it's a 2-to-1 ratio. So if I remove 2 millimeters here, it's like removing 1 millimeter down there at the 12th fret. I'm sure other Jim Dandies are set up better, but this particular one, I wasn't having it. Now, this is super cheap, and I'm wondering, should I replace this? The whole point of this... No, I'm not going to replace it. Google, can I sand a plastic saddle? Not sure I'm doing this right. But since everything about this project is new territory, it seemed like as good a time as any to sand down a saddle. There are a number of ways to get this muted, no sustain, old-timey effect. Rubber bands wrapped around the strings. Some remove the bridge completely, use rubber tubing. I asked my son if he had an eraser, because that's something I read at one point, and he brought this, and it's incredible. So just for fun, right up there. What if I move it down here? Let's see. Almost the perfect height. It's too dead. It's definitely a thing. I'm not quite ready for that, so I opted for a piece of rubber cut to fit under the strings next to the saddle. I tried to get cute with the contour, but it works. The last step, I cut slits in the rubber so that the string made good contact with the rubber. When you get into messing with this type of thing, there's so many different ways it can go. And now I'm thinking about, I could mute it a little bit more, a little bit less. I do like the progress. Much more natural sounding. It just sounds old.
Now we still have our regular phosphor bronze or bronze strings, and we're going to go to the flat wounds and see what that does. And I think I will also take the time to install the pickup while I have the strings off. Alright, there we go. That's pretty cool. Let's plug this bad boy in. Let's take this. I can't believe it worked. Come listen.
It sounds like a normal guitar.
Okay, just hold that for a second. Now listen to this.
Yeah. Definitely a lot quieter.
So it's just a totally different vibe. But with the pickup, how cool is that? Slide it under for the serious effect. I want to use this thing live, so I ordered a $13 wiring harness because I can't handle having the cable taped to the guitar or hanging out the front. We have soldering iron, solder cleaner thingamabob, solder, third and fourth hand. It has a pickup, which I'm not going to use. It might be great, but since this whole thing is under $8, I am going to assume it's not. It is wired up with two 500K pots. We have a volume pot and a tone pot, and the output jack. I am going to cut this and attach it to the pots. Plugging into amp, to electronics. Tone. From what I can tell, there's a hole in the bracing somewhere in this area. Alright, here we have the final result. Volume and tone, and my input jack. I already showed you what it sounds like playing through pedals, so I'll set up a mic and you can hear what it sounds like acoustic. I ended up spending this much on this project. Was it worth it? Absolutely. Is this sound for everybody? Absolutely not. Now, I love it. It fits my style. It's kind of like the soft drums for acoustic guitars, if you don't know what I'm talking about. Link in description. If I had to do it over again, would I get an old Silvertone or an old K? Possibly, but this guitar is new and modern. The neck is in decent shape. Some of those old guitars have bad necks. Gretsch did a great job of making this look cool. The average person's going to think it's old when they see it. The main takeaway that I have always been scared to work on my own guitars. I've done some work on my electric guitars, changed out pickups, but when it comes to my expensive acoustic guitar, I'm not going to touch it. I'm giving that to somebody else who's a professional and they can fix it and set it all up for me. But this project forced me to do it, and for a $180 guitar, if I messed it up, it wouldn't be a huge deal. If somebody gives you an old guitar or you find one for $50 on Craigslist, you might as well go for it. I make sample libraries. That's one of the things I do. And part of that process is getting to know the sound. I know every little detail, every little nuance of every sound that's in my sample libraries. And so when you hear it, I promise that I know what you are hearing. And with guitars, now I know a little bit more about string height and the way that I like to play it, and the way I don't like to play it. And I'm not afraid to go mess with this. My next project will be changing out this nut. The string spacing is a little narrow. I've heard some people have had good luck by widening that out because the neck can handle it. A week ago, I would not have even thought to do that. I might not have known that was possible. I'm a big believer that the more we know about how the sounds are made that we use, the better we are going to be at using those sounds in the stories and in the songs that we make. While working on this, I've been thinking, like, why is this sound so popular? Because basically you're taking a guitar that wants to resonate and you're doing everything you can to make it not resonate. But yet, it's still a guitar. We still play it the same way. It's still familiar. There's an intimacy to the sound. You know, it's not big and boisterous. It's really quiet. You got to get kind of close to hear it. It excels finger-picked. You can certainly strum it, but when you do, it doesn't give you the feedback that you normally get from an acoustic guitar. I think it works because when I pick it up, I want to write music with it. And that's the experience that I'm assuming so many other people, like the Taylor Swifts and the Phoebe Bridgers and the Ariel Posens and the Jeff Tweedies have had. If you found this interesting and you want to watch another video where I take a guitar and do something weird to it, watch this video. Talk soon.
Another video where I take a guitar and do something weird to it. Perfect.
Oh, I found that very interesting, John.
Yeah, definitely.
And I love how he overcame his, like, fear of modding a guitar. The logic that it's not a super expensive project, and
As soon as I hear the drill come out, it's like, here we go.
I'm gonna have to check out his sample library, because if he's sampling stuff like that, I love the tone he was getting out of it.
Yeah.
Like he said, this might not be the kind of tone you use all the time, but it is definitely a tone I could see using some of the time.
Yeah, and even when he took the that big eraser that he got and he slid it under there and he was like just able to get it under there, to me, like actually taking that eraser and just cutting it in half, like, make it half as thick and just take that so it's just barely touching the strings. It would not do as much dampening, but it would give the a similar effect, dampening the sound, but not by as much.
It's
really pushed in there. It's really dampening it.
It's really great to see these users who, like, they're shaping their own sound. They're sound sculpting.
Exactly.
And as a guitarist, especially with acoustic guitars, it's not like you have the same versatility as you would with the electric guitars and the effects and pedals that you do to shape the sound there. With the acoustic, that's a more natural approach.
The one thing for me with any, quote unquote cheap guitar, just anything that, like you were saying, if anybody gives you a guitar or has a guitar for you or whatever, my main thing is how does it feel as far as fretting goes? Like not even what notes you're playing or whatever, or whether it's in tune or not, but just picking it up. Does it feel smooth? Like if I was playing low notes and then I'm playing high notes, does it feel like, because if you have a really, really cheap guitar, sometimes those frets will be jagged in the point where, like, when you try to slide up, it'll be like, ga, 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 ga. You'd feel it as you're going up. Where if it's a really nice guitar, it has bindings on the side, it's really smooth, and you slide right along, you don't even notice the frets. So
yeah, but you're a little more scared to mess with a nice guitar, like he said.
Exactly. But that's where you can find it's certainly possible to find a cheap guitar that feels fantastic, and you can take a cheap guitar that is, like he was saying, set up not well, where it's set up too high here and maybe this is off there, but with a few little tweaks. And that's where not being afraid to work on your own instrument is important. He was saying not wanting to mod his good acoustic. Well, that's different. Just changing strings and checking intonation and making sure that it feels like it's at a good height. Doing the research to see what it would normally be like. What are the factory settings for my instrument? What are the right size strings? The quote unquote right size strings. That kind of thing. You don't have to use those, but knowing what it should be set for or what it was initially set for will tell you what the bridge what the spacing, everything, all that stuff is what it's set for.
Yeah, thank God for the internet these days. Now you can go find that information quick.
Oh yeah. And don't be afraid to experiment with it, because even the what he mentioned just there with taking the nut and stretching the strings just a little bit, making them just a little bit further apart by getting a different nut that is cut in a different spot. That's an interesting thought, because that way somebody with bigger fingers could make it where the strings are a little further apart, so that they're a little easier to get to all the different strings. Doesn't change where the frets are, but it changes where the strings are vertically.
Yeah, customized.
Yeah.
So
Interesting thoughts.
At John Mayer over on YouTube. Nice little do-it-yourself tutorial there.
Yeah, very cool.
Now we're going to move to the bassists, which is your playground.
Yes, indeed. And that's why when you mentioned Thomann guitars here, I was thinking Julia is one of the bass players that we see a lot of videos from the same site. This is Guillaume. He's one of the ones who I've seen him in a lot of the guitar videos, doing like guitar tones for Telecasters and Stratocasters, and they were doing some tone shootout stuff, or all the tones you can get, like making sure you can hit all the different types of sounds you would need, and doing them all from a Telecaster or doing them all from a Strat style, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and here he's coming from at Thommann's Guitar Basses.
Yep.
Plural. Guitars, basses.
Yeah, can you see him up there? Like that, you can see Julia, you see Guillaume, who else?
Oh, so they got a whole team over here of
experts.
Exactly. These are the best channels. Then Glenn, look what I found.
Yeah. Well, again, this is the one where, remember when we did a video on, I want to say it was the Bee Gees bass lines, or there's a couple of different ones that we checked out, like a couple of different bands that we had looked at, where it was looking at the bass lines throughout history. And
Julia was the one that was showing us the Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Earth, Wind, and Fire. That was that.
I remember. Yeah. I mean, we took a hit on YouTube for it, but it was so worth the video.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like some of those videos are great for that. They're not necessarily for the show, but just great to watch and to be familiar with. But again, the whole team there. I've seen numerous videos with, whether it's for guitar stuff or whether it's for bass stuff. They got great stuff from the channel.
Yes, and we are now subscribed.
Yes, indeed. And that's one that, you might have just found him, but that's one that we've looked at before, but it was one that we probably just hadn't, formally gotten up in there that way. Or you might not have recognized that it was Julia from the same channel as where he's from.
Well, I figured this one you might have already stumbled on.
Oh, yeah.
Like, when it comes to, like, bass configurations and pedal boards, I mean, you've seen some shit.
Yep. Exactly. And that's one where, the recommendations that I get in my YouTube feed, that's, before we even got our channel this well tailored to getting all these different, things for us in our feed, my feed was already kind of coming up with a lot of the stuff, because this is the kind of thing I would research anyway. So I'd have all kinds of things like this coming up in my feed. And then once I saw a channel like that, or a video like that from Julia, I would definitely watch a lot of that content, because there's some really good stuff on the channel.
Oh, and he looks natural with all that equipment around him. He looks like he's right at home.
Oh, yeah. So we will check this out then for the budget bass pedal board build, right?
Yeah, budget.
See about the pedal board kitchen.
Not expensive.
What we got?
What is up, guys? My name is Guillaume. Welcome to Thomann's Guitars and Basses, and to this series in which I usually build guitar pedal boards inspired by artists, inspired by brands, by colors. Why not? And today is a very special episode. It is way out of my comfort zone, because I'm going to be building a budget sort of essentials bass pedal board. So please, short disclaimer before we get started, I am no bass player whatsoever. I like to pretend that I am, and it's really good fun. So this is what I'm going to be doing today. Don't judge the playing, but you can judge the board itself. The idea is to build something that is compact, that is as versatile as possible, whether we're talking sounds or we're talking routing capabilities, meaning that if you want that special pedal board to track in the studio, to record DI, to record with the effects, to go direct on stage, to go to an amp, it should be capable of doing all of those things. So, without further ado, let's get started. Introducing the board itself, which is the Dario Expand 1, the small boy, as you can see already sort of expanded. Really, really solid platform. I'm going to be pairing that with the Chuck's Lynx DC5, which is also very compact, low-profile power supply. We'll get back to that once we get to assembling the board, but that's going to be my platform for today. Let's introduce the pedals. And pedal number 1 for today is the Harley Benton Double Down. This is part of the new sort of dual pedal, new-ish dual pedal series by Harley Benton. This is a compressor and an octaver specially dedicated for bass players. Now, if you are a beginner bass player, you'd be tempted to say, well, a compressor is a compressor, an octaver is an octaver, but no, it's not, because you have to be conscious that it is a vastly different range of frequencies that we're talking about, so you really want something that's dedicated, whether it's in terms of compression or bass octave, which is exactly what that is. It's a 2-in-1, so we are sparing a lot of space and budget by having those kinds of pedals on the board, and I think those are two of the main bass effects that you're going to require for your top 40 type of thing. So that's going to be our first pedal for today and first in the signal chain as well. And pedal number 2 for today is the heart and brains of the operation. This is the Bass Pocket Amp by Palmer. That thing is, I think, a must if you're building a budget bass pedal board, because it is incredibly versatile, whether we're talking sounds or routing options, because you have a fully comprehensive preamp with EQ, gain stages, different types of gain modes with a drive and a fuzz, but also a whole lot of I/O around it, meaning you have the bass input, of course, you have a through if you want to go from that pedal into a tuner and just mute your whole sound while you're tuning. You have an effects loop. You have a DI out that you can select either pre or post, which is going to be really handy, and we'll talk more about this once the board is assembled and we can sort of list out all of our routing options. And finally, obviously, a 1/4-inch out if you want to go to an amp. So yeah, super, super versatile little thing. So that's going to be our pedal number 2 for today. And pedal number 3 is no other than the Bass Big Muff by Electro Harmonics. Now, I think that an extra gain stage on that board is going to come in really handy, whether we're talking about a fuzz or a like dedicated bass overdrive type thing. I went for fuzz because I like fuzz, and this one's really cool because not only do you have the like classic legendary Big Muff sound, but also a bunch of routing and switching options with a bass boost, a dry switch, as well as a dry out if you don't have something like the Palmer and you need a separate output that is dry to be mixed and blended in post. So really, really compact, affordable pedal, and it's a fuzz. You need a fuzz, period. And fourth and final pedal for this board is going to be the Ampeg Liquefier Analog Chorus. Now, obviously, you have a choice of many, many different types of modulation for bass. It is vastly going to depend on what kind of style you're playing, what kind of songs you're covering or aiming to cover. I went for chorus because I think if you're going for the classic sort of 80s songs and everything, like you're going to need a cover more than you're going to need an envelope filter, for example. That being said, it was a tie. Since we're on a budget, could only go for one. Went for this one. Really, really cool as well. Really good classic sounding chorus with a dry mix as well, which for bass, I think, should be mandatory on every type of effect, regardless of what you do. But yeah, just to add a little bit of modulation, a little bit of versatility to the board, this is going to be our fourth pedal for today. Okay, so we have our 4 pedals. I'm going to get to assembling the board, putting everything together, making sure that it all works, and then we'll talk about the routing and how you can use it and make the best of it. All right, everything's assembled. Everything is turning on and off. Beautiful. I really love the way it looks. It is so compact and cute, and it does so much as well. I want to address that before we start, before I start playing, because the main objective of this board was versatility. I think sound-wise, we already have like a very nice array of different sounds, but the main point is routing, because this little thing and the way that it's cabled allows you to do basically everything and anything you might need as a bass player. So as you see in the back, I've got a XLR cable coming out of it that is going to be my DI. I have it in pre, that means that that DI signal is going to be clean. It's going to go directly to the mixer, only being affected by the compressor and maybe the octave if I use it. But that means that the sound engineer can either use that sound and blend it to your amp sound if you're using that, or just run DI. If you only have the DI and you're not going to be using an amp, the only thing you have to do is switch the switch to post. And that means that it will take everything in the signal chain and send it with that DI signal. But in this case, I'm going to be using a bass amp on top of the DI. So I'm going to keep the DI clean. I'm going to be running the amp out into Julia's amp, the Gensler Magellan 800. Hey, it's good. Julia picked it, so it's got to be good. So I'll be using both, try and give you guys a little bit of a taste of everything that this rig offers. Please note that if you want to add a tuner, you can just put it through the bass, through on the bass pocket amp. And it also allows to put in an auxiliary in if you want to play over a backing track, and use headphones with it if you want to rehearse quietly. I think that is just about as versatile as that can be. And yeah, you basically covered whatever gig you land, whatever rehearsal you have, or practice session, whether it's at home or in any sort of amp or console inputs. So with that said, let's see how it all sounds. And that's it for the sounds. I'm happy with the board, at least. Not so much with my playing, but I think it's a nice array of different sounds. Some of them being like really creative. I think the chorus and compressor worked really well. I like that kind of groovy stuff. The muff obviously does the muff thing, and the bass pocket amp does everything. It's a lot of heavy lifting. It's, again, so much routing and so many possibilities for that small of a rig in the end. Yeah, just really, really happy with it. But what did you think of it? What do you use? Do you go direct? Do you go to an amp? Do you go to several amps? Do you want more bass videos? Because we've had a lot of comments over the first few episodes of that series asking for more bass content. This is me trying. Let me know what you thought in the comment section. While you're down there, please consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel if you have not already, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.
Yes, indeed.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Yes, indeed. And let me just also say that I am definitely a member of the. I am a Big Muff fan there for sure. I mean, the Big Muff pie right there. That is one, the bass Big Muff, for sure. And now the other one that I also added in there for specifically like the sound he was just using, I would have had the baseballs hooked up for that, and I would have been going with that. But that's that's a different story. But it's just part of the picks he had for the signal chain. Definitely solid.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I mean, he kept it minimal, like he, trying to do a budget build, and his choice as far as the compressor, completely agreed with him that, like, never just assume compressors are not some magical thing that works on everything the same way. The considerations here, you should get a compressor that's focused on the bass frequencies.
Oh yeah. Now that's where for one I have the blue Boss compressor pedal. It's around here somewhere. I'm not even sure.
No, you
but
can't go wrong with Boss there.
But that could be in the rig. But also my bass head has compressor built in that I can just hit with a button and have a compressor right there. But also the pedal he was using as the black pedal there. What I have in my setup that is similar to that is that Sans amp that I have, the Tech 21 Sans amp. That's in the car, so I don't have that up here at the moment. I forgot it down there.
Now, what did you think about his decision on the last one going with the chorus? I thought that was a great choice. I mean, if you can only pick one, because I'm sure he wanted to like pick a couple, but
yeah, and so much depends on
in mind.
So much depends on the style of music that you're going to be playing, and that's where, to me, the bass balls, the one I just showed you a second ago, there has a very, very specific sound. It's that bubble bass is the way I would describe it, and it is very much like what he was just playing just now. The bass balls would be a perfect complement for that playing style. But whether a chorus would be better for that, or whether it would work well in conjunction with a chorus, I mean, I could see it working both ways. So I would have no opposition to having a chorus in a rig. But like as far as if you were playing, for example, I think I've shown you the picture of one of the bass players I've worked with who was in an 80s band. And for him, he's got about literally 30 pedals on his pedal board. It's kind of ridiculous. It's like three rows.
The most insane pedal board I've ever seen.
Indeed. And with that, like one of the ones that he really couldn't play without in his mind would be one that was the it's a kind of a keyboard emulation, because he's trying to get that 80s sound. So he's got to be able to emulate certain things on the bass. And there's also, he has a voice one, so he can do like the kind of like the voice box, Frampton kind of sound.
Oh yeah.
Get that voice box kind of sound. He's a bass player, so like he can jump up and do that if he needs to. So like, situations like that. So he's got lots of stuff going on the pedal board in order to be able to do things like that. But if he was to try to minimize it down to only a few things, he would probably also be hard pressed to, come up with only four, like to try to bring it up,
Well, if you got a little bit more of a budget, give it some balls.
Absolutely. And that's what I got, the bass balls. And that's what I had. But the other one would be the looper is a good one for me. Like having in there just a phrase sampler, because then you could just get a very simple bass pattern going and just lock it in the looper and then start doing other things. You can lay little chords over it. You can do little solo ideas.
Yeah,
percussive stuff.
A looper is useful for many different types of musicians, with guitarists, bassists, keyboardists. Some form of a looper is nice to have in there.
Yep. One little secret would be doing putting in a little percussive loop. Like if you're playing bass, if you've got an idea of the tempo you want to go, you can just on the bass, just thwapping the strings with your fingers, and get that in the loop, and then play your bass part over it, and then you've got those parts locked in, and you keep building from there. And eventually, when you do put drums in, you're not going over much. There's just that little piece of percussive whatever that you started with. So it kind of helps to get started, though.
Yeah. Well, when we have bass night or guitar night, the sequel, we will definitely be coming back to Thomann's guitars, basses.
Yep, and like he was talking about Julia's rig over there, that's that we've seen several videos from Julia, and that's Guillaume there. We've seen several videos from him as well. Some good stuff going on there.
And like he said, Julia knows her shit. So if she says this is good, she's not bullshitting.
Like, I'm playing through her stuff, and I know it's good because she's playing it. Exactly. Good answer. Now, when it comes down to getting connected into your machine, right? Is this where we're going with the probably the Focusrite?
Yeah. Now we're going to start looking at some of those digital interfaces that they've all mentioned, the DI is an important part of making music these days. And the reason why Focusrite, I think for me, has been recommended so much. We have lots of singers who are looking to plug into their phones, plug into their computers, and they want to be able to use high-end mics on that phone and have that versatility across the board. Focusrite has been doing it right for well over a decade now, and they have some of the like best mic preamps for the dollar. You get a lot of bang for your buck there.
Yeah. And again, what you've got is the best thing, but getting yourself something that will suit your purposes and allow you to, whether it's to expand, because you say that for some people and it's like, well, I'm never going to do anything other than sing in the house, so I'd never need more than one connection. It's like, even that's why
spend
to me,
the extra $50 because the Solo, the $99 one, yes, gets you one connection. But if you decide you want a mic and a guitar, that extra $50 actually gives you a lot more for just a little bit more.
and even if you don't need more than one, because you're never going to play with anybody else, you might meet somebody tomorrow who plays guitar, and now you need two. And if only I got that second one, we could have just both connected and been doing our thing right there.
Yeah, and just like when you're buying computers, you shouldn't be thinking about what you're doing today. You should be thinking about what you might be doing tomorrow. Buy something with room to grow there.
Right, but some people, they go a little too far the other way with it, where they say, hey, okay, I need more than one, so I'm going to get 64 channels. And it's like, wait, time out. There's room in between there. Somebody gives you a 64 channel thing, that's beautiful, but
it's like Jeremy last week, 32 channel.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful
mixer.
though.
I wouldn't poo-poo that either.
We got it in there. We got signal. You can get sound from here into there, and then do things with it. So that's the way to go. But yes, the idea is just not to, some people they'll just go out and, like you said, I know people who would go out and just buy this or that without consulting me about what it is, just to, just because, I saw something, so I just wanted to go out and get it. And it's like, we could have talked about it first and figured out which one, would have been the best one to go get for, like you said, more bang for the buck or more flexible or what have you.
And that's why it's nice having these resources, because I spend vicariously through what I learned from resources like this.
Right. And it's also we're able to look at it and be like, okay, now if I was, if I had 2K to spend, then I would do this, this, and this. But if I only had 500 to spend, I would do this and this. And if I was trying to eke out something on 150, I would be able to do this and this, depending on what you're trying to set up. And that's where it's important to understand all the perspectives, depending on, what your realistic budget is for what you're trying to do.
Well, and for me, this is interesting because it's not something I would necessarily buy for myself. It doesn't suit my needs, but it is something that I recommend over and over when, people are asking, what should I get for their scenario? And with Focusrite, it's always been those singers or sometimes guitarists who's just looking for that PC to mobile solution. Focusrite and iRig have kind of been, neck and neck there for versatility between mobile and desktop.
Yeah. And just understanding what it will do for you and what it won't do for you is important. And again, most people, in my setup over here, I have that little 4-channel Mackie. Sorry. Little 4-channel Mackie over there. But it's, just so that I can set up a couple different things at once. I can have the vocal mic coming in one channel. I can have my guitar or bass coming into the second channel. I still have the keyboard coming in on 3 and 4. If I really wanted to, I could bring something else in on a tape-in aux channel.
And that's why it's good to consider a mixer. I mean, right now we're looking at a digital interface, and it does give you a couple of inputs. It's not a mixer though. It's an interface. When you step up from just an interface to a mixer with USB or digital conversion, then you're kind of getting into a bigger world where you take care of your mixing needs and digitize.
Now this one for me is actually, I'm actually bottlenecking it after the mixer, because from the mixer I'm going out and then going into my 1/8 inch microphone input on the computer. So it's going, everything coming back down to that one connection. If that one connection gets, like you would get dirty pots on a guitar sometimes, or, you get clicking or, dirt in the connection, that can be a problem. So like if it was, I would prefer if this one was USB, but this is from just before that. So
well, and
at this point though, the new version of this would be awesome.
An analog mixer is useful
Oh, yeah.
nonetheless.
Oh, still using it?
Oh yeah. I wouldn't get rid of any of my analog mixers. In some cases, you get sometimes a warmer sound out of them, that especially with the mic preamps.
Yeah. And that's what I found is, when it's my guitar, everyone says they love the way, the guitar sounds, and it's literally just the guitar plugged into the board, plugged into the, mic input on the computer. So there's nothing special going on, no effects happening. And it's just, that's the sound. I mean, it's an SG, it's a beautiful guitar. So there is that, but it's also, there's nothing special, nothing fancy happening there. And with the keyboard, it's also just connected, it's just my, it's Casio over here, it's just, connected over there. Nice and easy. It's just basically to get it into the headphones so that I can hear it. And, it's never really usually playing out through speakers anyway. So I don't have like monitors in the room anywhere. Like some people that usually have headphones as well as having reference monitors in the room. For me, I don't have reference monitors at all, just because I'm never going to have stuff that loud here. So I just keep it all in the headphones. And then, if I'm going to listen to it loud, I'll listen to it in the studios.
And at the end, as long as it captures and records nice, the sound that you get when you do lay down the track, that's what matters.
Yeah, exactly.
So with this, the Gen 3 Focusrites were awesome. Mm-hmm. They added the area effect to it, which was a big deal. I was telling people who were buying the Gen 2s at the time when the 3s came out, I was like emphasizing, make sure you get a Gen 3. Don't try to save a couple of bucks there. And this might be the case all over again. With the 4s out, you're going to see the Generation 3s drop down in price, but consider whether you want to save a couple of bucks or whether these new features that they're adding with the Generation 4s might be worth that extra little bit. And the good thing is he's comparing them to the marker, the Unicorn M2, which, it's I like to see things compared this way rather than just go straight like, what's the new features? I want to know how it compares to other competitively priced hardware.
Other options in the same neighborhood, sure.
Yeah.
Nice. So this is Focusrite 2i2 4th gen, right? Versus the Motu.
From at the Garage Band Guide. Good
versus
channel.
Versus the Motu M2.
Focusrite shook up the audio production world when they released the 4th generation of their Scarlett range of interfaces just a wee while ago. I took a closer look at the all-new Scarlett 2i2 model, and I really liked it. You'll find a link to my full review down below the like button. One of the most asked questions in that video's comment section was how the new Scarlett 2i2 compared to other audio interfaces. Now, there were all kinds of audio interface models suggested. I think it's fairer to compare it to another model that sits around the same price point. Something like this Motu M2, another audio interface that sits around the £200 mark here in the UK and is widely considered to be the best audio interface at that price point. So, how does the 4th gen Scarlett stack up? Both the Scarlett 2i2 and Motu M2 feature metal bodies with plastic face and backplates. Both are hefty, solid, and feel pretty much indestructible. Both of these models are 2-in, 2-out interfaces, but they both go about it in different ways. The Motu M2 features 2 combo inputs on the front of the interface. Each input can accept either a mic or a guitar with independent preamp gain controls and 48-volt phantom power for condenser mics. Each input also has independent direct monitoring, which allows you to hear live input on your speakers or headphones without routing the signal through host software on your computer. The 4th Gen Scarlett I.T features 2 high-Z instrument inputs on the front of the interface and 2 separate XLR inputs on the back. You will either love or hate this design choice. Personally, it doesn't really bother me, as I generally keep the same mics attached all the time. If you constantly need to attach and detach different microphones though, you may find this is a bit of an issue for you. The Motu M2 features a lovely full-colour LCD screen featuring clear, detailed level meters for all inputs and outputs. Not only is this really helpful when it comes to setting input and output gain, it also feels really premium and unique. You just won't find metering this good on any other audio interface at this price point. Having said that, Focusrite have updated the Scarlett I.T's iconic gain halos in the 4th generation refresh, which now fill up to show the level of the incoming signal. This shows green or orange like a standard audio meter to clearly show varying input levels. The whole halo lights up red if the input signal clips. Also, the halos fill up to show the level the preamp is set to when you turn the gain knob, which is a really nice touch. Both the M2 and I.T have big chunky output knobs and headphone outs with independent output knobs too. The Scarlett I.T features universal direct monitoring here as well, while as I mentioned, the Motu M2 features independent direct monitoring for each input. Neither of these interfaces feature a direct monitoring blend knob, which is a wee bit disappointing really. Both of these interfaces connect to your device of choice via USB-C, with the Scarlett I.T 4th Gen also featuring an external 5V DC USB-C power output and 2 1/4-inch TRS outputs that you can connect your studio monitors to. The Motu M2 has both 1/4-inch TRS and RCA outputs, as well as MIDI ins and outs, and a power button. Specs-wise, there isn't a whole lot between these two interfaces. I'll pop standout specs for both of them on screen now, and you can find full specifications on the web pages for these models. I'll link those down below. It's worth noting that Focusrite have revamped the preamps on these new 4th Gen Scarlett models, and they now provide 69 decibels of gain, which is enough to run low output microphones like this Rode Procaster or the ubiquitous Shure SM7B without a cloud lifter. The Motu M2 provides up to 60 decibels of gain, so it can also run a microphone like this without any external hardware. The preamps on both of these models are so good and so clean that you really don't need to worry about introducing any extra noise into your recordings when cranking the input gain. Here's where things get really interesting. The 4th Gen Scarlett I.T is loaded with really useful features like auto gain, which will set your gain to the optimum level automatically for you, ClipSafe, which automatically adjusts your gain levels when active to avoid clipping, and Air Mode, which adds one of 2 different presets that mimic the sound of Focusrite's classic analog preamps. The Motu M2 doesn't have any of that, which may or may not matter to you depending on what you're looking for in an audio interface. The Motu M2 has the Scarlett I.T beat when it comes to latency, however. In Logic, with the buffer size set to 32, the Scarlett I.T has 16 milliseconds round-trip latency, whereas the Motu M2 has 7.6 milliseconds. Both interfaces feature loopback, and both come bundled with some included software. The Motu M2 comes with Motu Performer Lite and Ableton Live Lite, 100 plus instruments that you can use in Motu Performer Lite, and 6 GB of free loops and samples from Big Fish Audio, Loop Masters, and Lucid Samples. The Scarlett 2i2 comes with light versions of Ableton and Pro Tools, plus you can grab free plugins from Antares, Softube, Addictive Drums, Native Instruments, Focusrite themselves, and 2 months free use of Lander's online mastering service. If included software is a deal breaker for you, it's clear which audio interface comes out on top here. Alright, here are some sound demos, some spoken word, and a couple using acoustic guitar. All were recorded using a Rode NT1 condenser microphone, and there has been no post-processing added to anything, apart from maybe a wee bit of gain after the fact. Things like crowns had a troublesome effect on clever folk. It was best to leave all the reining to the kind of people whose eyebrows met in the middle when they tried to think. In a funny sort of way, they were much better at it. Things like crowns had a troublesome effect on clever folk. It was best to leave all the reining to the kind of people whose eyebrows met in the middle when they tried to think. In a funny sort of way, they were much better at it. So, which one of these audio interfaces is best? It depends. On the face of it, the 4th generation Scarlett 2i2 seems like it could be the clear winner. New design, excellent preamps, great features. If you're just getting started in the world of music production and don't feel confident doing things like setting your own gain or output, or if you're a musician who just wants to plug in, press a few buttons, and get to recording, then you'll find a lot to like here. Having said that, the Motu M2's preamps are second to none at this price point. The LCD metering, super low latency, and extra flexibility when it comes to outputs and MIDI options makes this the more appealing choice for the more seasoned musicians and producers out there. Let me know which one of these two excellent $200 buck-pound audio interfaces get your vote down in the comments. And if you could give that like button a good tickle on the way past, I'd really appreciate it. If you're looking for the best audio interface around the $100/$dollar price range, watch this next.
All right.
Oh, I did tickle that like button. See?
Yep. Tickled it good. We are subscribed.
And you know, I'm not sure what he sold me on there, because for me, I might go with the Motu. The less latency and the additional MIDI control, much more useful to me.
Mm-hmm.
But on the Focusrite side, listening to that acoustic example, the Air 2 does have a wee bit more gain, as he said.
And the other thing I did like about that Focusrite was also, again, the auto gain, the clip safe, like having features in there that you can just go boop boop and go, and then play really loud, play really soft, and have it actually figure out and get you right dialed in. Now, for me, obviously, I can dial it in myself, but I like that feature to allow people to be able to just jump right in. Not sure, but if I just hit this button and all of a sudden they strum and then boom, music happens. And
yeah,
that's awesome.
He did kind of sell it to those who just want to plug and play. The Scarlett does have more of an advantage there. And when I'm recommending hardware like this, I'm still more inclined to go that way because a lot of the people asking me don't want to get too complicated in their setup. They want something ready to go.
Now, one thing that I see is, you know, in the, I guess it was the Motu, right, that has the 2 combo jacks. So you can use either 1/4 inch or XLR.
Yeah, I like those.
With the Scarlett, you can use 1/4 inch or you can use XLR, but there's 2 of them in the front, 2 of them in the back. Now, one thing that I see when I see that is like, oh, I can plug in 4 things, like 2 this way, 2 that way. It's like, no, it's still just the 2 channels. So it's probably just this one or that one, this one or that one. So you might have 1 XLR plugged in the back, 1 1/4 inch plugged into the front for the other channel.
You can't record on those simultaneously. You can switch back and forth. So you could lay down some tracks in the front, then lay down some tracks coming from the back. You just can't do them simultaneously.
And that was the question. That's where with the combo jacks, you know, it's still, you still only have, you know, whichever one you're picking, you're still only hooking up 2 things at a time. But those 2 things can be 1/4 inch or XLR. And you can, you know, do things to them independently, which I like.
Well, and with these interfaces at this price point, it's all about getting that stereo signal in, you know, the left, right, or 1, 2, a guitar and a mic. It's still about getting a stereo signal in to capture and digitize.
Exactly. Good stuff.
But the mic preamps, because this next one, this is a new piece of hardware for me, and Colt, I trust this guy's advice. He is rock solid. We've looked at his videos a couple of times on different nights, and when it comes to equipment reviews, I love the way he approaches it. And this one, I mean, he makes some bold statements here, like this is the best mic preamp ever, which takes some big balls to make that statement. And
we've heard some good ones for sure. Which channel is it?
This one's coming from Colt Capperoon.
Yeah.
And I think, he's at Colt Capperoon over on YouTube.
Nice.
And he really, equipment reviews, mixing advice, engineering advice, like all around, man after my own heart.
Got some good hobbies. Definitely gotta like that.
He's a top 40 mix engineer, producer, and session guitarist. So he knows his shit.
And let's see what we got here.
Yeah, I think this is called the Cappy.
I can't believe this mic pre-exists. Let's check it out.
Have in my hands here is the greatest microphone preamp ever made. Now, I realize that is a bold statement, so stick with me to the end of this. This is serial number 1. And you see that little CC right there? Now, I've been using the prototype of this for 8 months, and a pair of them have been on my mix bus for this song. Now I'm losing it, going out of my... And this song. Now what the truck am I supposed to do with that hitch? And this song. I'm gonna throw my phone in a Percy Priest. Every song, literally every single song. And it has won vocal shootouts when I'm tracking vocals on every single singer I've tracked for the past 8 months. So you pull it out here, you get a little Cappy sticker. I love this that they put on all of their preamps. But let's get this open. I'm really proud of this, you guys. I can't tell you how fortunate I feel to have this. I'm not sure if you know whose signature that is, but this is my signature preamp. There's so much to tell you about this, and I cannot wait to show you how we came up with this, how we built this, and the history behind this, but none of that really matters if it doesn't sound good. So I put together a little piece of music. Every single thing that you're about to hear was tracked through this, and a pair of these was on the mix bus when I mixed this song. We're gonna get into all of this stuff, but I would like to introduce you guys to the Cappy Rune. Let's get into this. Now, I'll put links down below to download all of those files that you just heard, so you can really download everything and hear the raw files. There's no EQ or no compression on any of the stuff that we tracked. It was microphones straight into these preamps, straight to Pro Tools. Now, these preamps are based on the old Hyder consoles, and there was only a couple of those made. I think less than 6 of them made. And the original version of this preamp lived on my mix bus since August 2017. And the pair of those were on my mix bus for every single song. It was literally over 1,000 songs I had those on my mix bus for, and tracked tons and tons and tons of stuff through them. Now, this is the new version. This has 3 transformers in it. This is literally like a fader that has an extra 12 dB of gain, so you can run it super clean with the preamp all the way down and the fader all the way up. You can turn the fader all the way down and the preamp all the way up to get way more color and saturation, or obviously anywhere in between. We have got a polarity button, a mic/line button, so you can run line level stuff when you're mixing, or microphones when you're tracking. We've got a built-in pad, we've got 48 volt phantom power, and an 80 hertz high pass filter. And then you've got input impedance here right on the inside of the unit, so that way you can switch the impedance for the microphones if you'd like to match it up. In addition to 3 proprietary transformers, it also has the custom Cappy op amps that are a proprietary build only to them, and it is the biggest, sweetest, most wonderful sounding preamp I've ever used, and it works on everything. But really, the thing that makes this absolutely unstoppable is how well it works on the mix bus, in addition to how well it sounds tracking everything. So for as many times as I have talked about mixing through a pair of preamps, I've never actually taken the time to A/B it and show you guys how incredible it actually is. So we're gonna do that right now. I have the piece of music that you guys just heard, and I have taken everything off the mix bus after hardware, so that way there's nothing being affected, no limiters or anything like that. And I have removed the compressor and the SPL Big, so you are only hearing the difference between these preamps being on the mix bus and them not being on the mix bus, and it is insane. Now, these are perfectly level matched, and you can see over here where it says peak, I have level matched them perfectly, which is really hard to do in the analog world, so I had to print one and then print the other and then level match them in a new session here. But they are -1.9 and -1.9. They are exactly the same peak volume. So when you hear, let's just take a listen. All right, here we go. So here is without, and halfway through, I'm going to switch it to the other one that was printed through the preamps. Now again, I want to reiterate, that's level matched. So that enormous jump in power and impact and volume, apparent volume, that is all because of what these preamps are doing to it, because those are the same volume, peak volume. So let's do that again. Here we go. So it's everything. There's saturation happening there that makes the mix louder. There is an overall size difference, like it just feels bigger. The low end of the kick drum, like from 100 hertz and down, totally changes, and it gets like thicker but more solid at the same time. I mean, It's just everything. There's only so many cliches that I could throw at this, but every single thing about it is better when running through these preamps. And that's why I've been doing it since 2017, and with these sonically since October last year. It's well over 1,000 songs. I have had this flavor or a version of this flavor on my mix bus, and this is why. Now, in terms of character, compared to other preamps, they are very, very, very open sounding. Like, I know it's a cliche that there's a blanket over it and someone took the blanket off, but that's really what these sound like. They are very clear and very open. They have a slightly aggressive, slightly forward mid-range that I love. It's one of the reasons why it works so well on mix bus. And the sub bass is very deep. Like the bottom end of these go really, really deep. Okay, so I want to walk you guys through the range of tones available in this. Now, this is your input and this is your output. You can look at this like a fader on a console. So most or all of the color is going to come from how hard you drive the input, and then you can use this to balance it out. So the more you turn this input up, the more color and saturation you're going to get, and the more you turn it down, the cleaner it's going to get. So I'm going to walk you through that. I have removed every single plugin from the mix bus post this and bypassed all the hardware. So we are only running through these, and that is it on the mix bus. So here we go. Here's where I have it set now. Let's try turning these up a little like this, and we'll turn this down. Now, to me, that's starting to get really obviously saturated. Let's go the polar opposite here. Now, what's crazy is the peak volume on this setting, when it's much more saturated, is actually several dB quieter than the last one that you just heard. Even though it sounds way louder, it's actually significantly quieter. Now, that said, this is a bit aggressive on the saturation for me. I usually run it a little cleaner than this, but that just kind of gives you guys a range. But let's crank it all the way and see what we come up with here. Yeah, that's just ripping, and actually that was like 4 or 5 dB quieter on peak level. So that shows you how you can raise your LUFS with the saturation in these without raising your peak level. So it just makes everything bigger and more impressive and louder. Now, these are completely hand assembled right here in Nashville, Tennessee. It's all built by like 2 people. And they're literally completely assembled by hand from scratch. Now, Cappy does a lot of different kits where you can buy them unassembled and assemble them yourself. But these and the Hiders and the Platinum series, and they have a handful of models that you can only buy pre-assembled, and they're all done by hand in the factory here in Nashville. Now, I'll put a playlist down below so you can go check this music out. Every single song on there that's come out in the last 8 months was mixed through a pair of these, and the vocal was tracked through one of these. And I will also put a link to these down below to Cappy's website if you'd like to go pick some up. We're only doing 50 of these, and I'm keeping the first 4 because it's the coolest looking preamp. In addition to it being so incredible sounding, it is the coolest looking preamp ever. Now, I met Jeff, the owner of Cappy, back in 2016, I believe, and I began telling him that we need to do a collaboration. I need a signature model called the Cappy Rune. I was telling him this for years. And then one day in October last year, 2022, he just out of the blue sent me a picture of a prototype version of this faceplate. And I was like, yeah! I was trying to convince him so hard that I had already told him a bunch of different ideas about what I wanted and what I wanted it to look like, and so he just surprised me out of the blue one day. We went through a handful of revisions trying to get this to be all black, all murdered out, but still show up in photos, because I do recall with photos when I'm mixing, and so since these are on my mix bus, they had to show up in a photo. Now the next thing we did is I wanted to change the LEDs, because if it's all murdered out, it looked kind of weird to have like green, yellow, and red LEDs, because they actually are that color even when they're turned off. I thought that looked weird. So then I was like, we should get clear. Can we get clear that are just all, when they're off, there's no color to them? So Jeff went on this wild goose chase trying to hunt down these special LEDs for me. And then I was like, I don't want any color to them, because I would just like them to be warm white. Let's just have them warm white when they're on, so that just adds to the whole murdered out vibe. And then I got this genius idea, because these live on my mix bus, and because I drive them into the red on every single song. That's literally my metric, is they go into the red on every song, on the loudest part of every song on my mix bus. I was like, what if we put, instead of 2 red LEDs, what if we put 2 green LEDs? Like, yeah, go there. And so finding these LEDs that were clear when off but warm white when on, except for the top 2 that are clear when off and green when they come on, this was such a wild thing, and he had to redesign some of the circuitry to make all of this work. But I'm really pumped with this. I think this is the coolest looking preamp I've ever seen. I think that this is one of, if not the best sounding microphone preamp I've ever used, and it is hands down the best thing I've ever used on my mix bus ever, period, full stop. It wouldn't have my name on it if I didn't believe all of those things. First of all, let me just take a second and thank all of you guys, because without you guys, stuff like this wouldn't happen. Like I feel like we did this. I didn't really do this. We did this, and it means a lot to me. Thank you guys for being along on this journey with me. These will be up on Cappy's website. I'll put a link down below. We're only doing 50. I'm keeping 4 of them, so there's only 46 available. So get after them quick, because they are gonna go quick. These are gonna sell for $949, and that's a banger of a deal, considering this has beat out $5,000 preamps. Literally in my big room, I'm in a vocal session, and it has beat out some very high-end microphone preamps, and it just slaughters everything on the mix bus. Now, sonically, this is the exact same sonic character as the Hider H2. They're new hiders, and that's why I've been using it for the past 8 months. I have serial number 1 and 2 of the original Hider H2s, and I got those because we knew we were gonna do this custom edition. If you're in the market for preamps to go on your mix bus, like I've been preaching about for the entirety of this channel, or if you're in the market for some absolutely stunning, incredibly versatile microphone preamps, check these out. All right, I guess that's it. Thank you guys for watching. I'm so pumped on this. Thank you guys for being a part of this journey. Thank you to Jeff and Joel over at Cappy for making this happen. I appreciate you guys. I love this stuff. I love this preamp. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
I love it.
Wow. Yeah, Cappy is going to be a force to be reckoned with in the mic preamp world.
I love that.
I'm
I love that
convinced.
stack he had going on there. It's like a build your own computer.
And he made a great point at the end. You know, it seems pricey at $949, but if you understand the importance of mic preamps in these kind of studio situations, the costs can go way beyond that to get maybe something that doesn't actually sound better. The examples he gave there, that's I kind of believe him that this might be the best current mic preamp out there, especially for the cost at the moment.
Yeah, got to let your ears be your guide, man, when you're listening to it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I had to bring up
better A or B. It's easy question, but if A is better, it's like, oh, what's A? It's like, there it is.
Yeah, I had to check it out. Cappy-gear.com. See what I like here is you have manufacturers and engineers that are listening to the needs of, the talent out there, and they're building their equipment around those needs.
And
This
being
is
that involved in the design process, even down to the color of the LEDs and all that. That's pretty cool. I like that.
Oh, I wish I could suggest the color of an LED on some equipment.
And having a good reason to, it's not just because hey, it should be, it should be whatever because nobody else has a zebra striped one or whatever. It's like you gotta have a reason for it, and it's good to have a reason.
Well, and he wasn't shitting when he said like these went fast because they're out of stock at the moment. But that is a desirable piece of gear.
Oh yeah, and just shows the importance of preamps in general as well.
Yeah, it's one of the things we tend to take for granted. We just think like, oh, that was mic nice, or sometimes we credit the wrong things. We think it's the mic when sometimes it's the preamp that actually is where the good sound is coming from.
Right.
I've heard crappy mics sound good with good preamps.
Sure. Yeah. And that's the thing is, a lot of it comes down to the source material as well. What's going into the mic. And one thing that was funny is, if you ever see people at a gathering or whatever, and somebody who's not accustomed to singing or being on a microphone ever, and you hand them a mic so they can do an announcement, and they just like you hand them the mic and then they hold it like no the other way. They like hold it like away from them at their waist. Instead of like, like instead of holding it up to like actually talking to it, they just like forget they have a mic in their hand. They just start talking and assume it's going to pick them up from, 2 feet away. It's like, no.
Unless
get
it's
that back up
lapel.
over here. And then like, oh, there we go. Yeah. But like, no, people just have like a wireless mic, hey, do you have a mic so we can announce, so-and-so's birthday or whatever? It's like, yeah, here you go. You hand them a wireless mic, but it's like, get it up near your face at least, please. Point it at your face. So pretend, you got to get the sound in there.
Yeah, what's this thing for?
And don't just like slam on it and don't like cup it either, because getting all the way around it, not a good thing.
So at Colt Caparoon on YouTube, awesome resource for you sound engineers out there.
Very cool.
Go. Soak it all in. He's got great advice about everything.
Indeed. And some awesome preamps right there. Now on this one, we're going into some finger drums.
Yeah, we're going to do something for the drummers out there.
It looks like a space age keyboard almost, like, computer keyboard.
And for keyboardists who want to get into drums and possibly have a more natural, the thing that got my attention was the layout. Like, the 16 pad squares, I got them on have never assimilated to it. My Roland has great sensitive pads, but still 16 blocks. I don't feel like I'm playing actually drums with that layout. Here, it's almost like mixing computer approach with keyboards to drum approach.
When I just glance at it, one thing that I would see is like, to me, the space bar at the bottom there, what I would call the space bar is like that would be like
got to
the
be the bass. Yeah, that's got to be the bass drum. And
then like above it, there's those two over there, like, the two on this side or the two on that side, that could be the tom roll. So like, so you can go like hit, those two little ones and then that one. Or, it could be, on the other side, maybe it's the hi-hat where it's, open hi-hat or closed hi-hat. So it could be a tss, or, a get that kind of difference going.
And with that giant bass at the bottom like that, for you metalheads out there trying to do double bass, that's what you need.
You go quadruple bass, get both hands going with 2 fingers each.
Oh, hell yeah. Make a whole new form of metal.
But yeah, the other thing is they're probably all programmable, but like just looking at the layout from the way they made the layout from a construction standpoint was pretty cool.
Yeah, and these are 2 different models. You see some subtle differences. I like that they include, a built-in speaker. This is the kind of gear you could go and play in the park and practice and then take home and go nuts with. I think the one on the right, looking at like the buttons, I think the one on the right's got more looping function, sequencing, things that like you might want to be able to do if you want to sequence on the road. But
I also want to see what the back looks like.
the pads look pretty consistent on both sides. So cheap version, expensive version. If I just want those pads, the cheap one looks like it's ready to go.
Yeah. The Yamaha finger drum pad.
Yeah, this
FGDP.
this comes straight from the horse's mouth too. This is at Yamaha Global. You know, if you buy any gear from them or are interested in any gear from them, they're out there on YouTube showing their shit off.
Yes, indeed. Because they got some stuff to show off.
And anybody who's been around for like the last 20, 30 years in music has probably bought a piece of Yamaha equipment. I have a couple. Don't want to tell them how I feel about my digital mixer, Firewire, $1,000. Never could get it to actually work with my computer. But
well, on the drumming side, though, you mentioned the 16 pad, and like you've seen plenty of controllers that are, you know, just a 16 pad, you know, square or whatever. But how many have you seen with this layout? None, right? So
well, yes, this is kind
layout,
of this is a new game for them where, like, you know, Akai has kind of dominated with the finger drummers.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the best pads for reaction. But I
am intrigued by this. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I actually had Yamaha digital cheap back in the 90s. It was just like 4 pads and early days of digital drums, and it was not bad.
Nice. So let's see what the finger drum pad FGDP series product walked. Check it out.
Hello, this is the FGDP 50 and the FGDP 30. Those are Yamaha's new finger drum pads. They are great just to playing drums and percussion wherever you are. You just take it with you and you're good to go. There's a built-in speaker, a battery, plenty of sounds, and that's all you need to start right away. Then we have the dedicated finger drumming pad section, ergonomically built, especially for your fingers. Then with the FGDP 50, we have another row of RGB lights, and of course, you can assign them with all the sounds you need. They both feature a great ergonomic pad layout that is designed to play drums and percussion with ease. And both have a big variety of great drum and percussion sounds. And they have both a section for the click track. And in the back you find connections for your auxiliary in, headphone outs, and a port to connect it with your computer. In addition, the FGDP 50 features another USB port for a memory stick. From there you can import your drum sounds, or you can play along with your personal playback, or you can even record a performance that you play on the FGDP. Last but not least, on the FGDP 50 we have 8 RGB pads. Of course, you can assign them to any sounds you want, and they have this beautiful light design that sometimes help, for instance with the click track, to know where you are. The FGDP is made specifically for finger drumming, but not just only for finger drummers. It's made also for producers or any kind of musicians who wants to work on their rhythmic skills, and actually it's made for anybody who's interested to play an instrument. Let's talk a little bit about the pad layout. The pad layout, it's made for your hands and not the other way around. So it's quite easy to play on them without moving too far. You have bigger pads for the most important instruments like the bass drum and the snare drum. Together with a hi-hat, it's easy to play a complete groove. If you just hold your hand in a relaxed position and just let it drop, you already kind of land on those pads. So this makes it really easy and effortless to play for a longer period of time. Because the hi-hat and the snare drum are quite versatile in sound, you have even more pads for them. So you find an open hi-hat here in the middle and a second snare drum rim shot. Right now we are in a vertical position. If you turn your hands a little bit, you are horizontally and you find your toms. The great thing is that you have for both hands the toms, so you don't have to cross over and play on one side. So you keep it calm and you can play the toms with ease. On top you have 2 crash cymbals, like in the real world, you have them on top. Then you have a ride cymbal with a ride bell and some additional instruments at the bottom, like a splash cymbal or a rim click. Let's talk a little bit about the pad sensitivity. Of course, the pads are very sensitive. And this is maybe one of the most important parameters in music, to play dynamically. What does that mean? Dynamic is the range between the softest and the loudest stroke. And here we have the full range with just tapping a little bit. And then playing louder. This is so important. For instance, if you just have a groove and you play always one dynamic, then it sounds a little stiff and a little mechanic. So if you just play you can give different notes a different weight in that rhythm, and that makes it more groovy. And of course you can change the sensitivity to your playing style. Then we have the RGB pads. They are like regular pads. You can assign any sound you like. And like I said before, you can have it in conjunction with the click track. And in the session creator, you can use them to control the part of your song. The FGDP 50 and the FGDP 30 features a big variety of sounds. Here some examples for acoustic set. Or an electronic set. Or even percussion sets. Of course, you can edit each sound in many different ways. You have your standard parameters like volume. Then we have pan. Tuning. Decay. Then we have a filter cutoff for each sound. With resonance. Both FGDPs feature an effects section with 3 send effects. We have the reverb type, then we have the chorus type, and the variation type. But all of them feature much more. For instance, have flanger, phaser, auto-wear, a chorus, delays, and all kinds of different effects. Let's talk about the session creator on the FGDP 50. If you go to the session creator, the FGDP 50 provides 23 different playbacks for you of all kinds of styles and genres. Let's go to the funk playback. Here the RGB pads work as buttons for start and stop or to guide you through the song. And with the pads 2 to 6, you switch in between the different parts. You can also load your own loops and play on top of them. If you like to play to your own songs and loops, it's quite easy. You just put your files on a USB stick and put this one in the USB to device port. Then the FGDP 50 automatically recognizes the files and you can play along. You can play along to any track you want using the auxiliary in with a mini jack cable. So you can use your phone, your laptop, or any other playback device. Let's talk about the note repeat function. With the note repeat function, you create this kind of modern stutter effect. And the great thing is that you can have it on every pad, and you can have different subdivisions. For instance, I take a hi-hat sound and go in note repeat. And now I have 8 notes. Or I go for 16 notes. And this is individual, so I can have a completely different one for the bass drum or the snare drum. And of course the pads have aftertouch, so it makes a big difference how hard I push the pad, from soft to hard. Together with the hold function, you can create little sequences. In order to activate the hold mode, you press the button and then push your pad. Push it a second time, it stops the repeat function. On the FGDP 50 you also can load in your own samples. Again, you have to put them on your memory stick. The format should be wave format with 16-bit and 44.1 kHz. And then again, the FGDP recognizes them automatically. You go to your sample, push enter and choose where you want to have it load, and then it's loading. In both FGDPs we have a click track section, and the click track actually should help the musician. If you don't feel comfortable with the click track, you maybe like to change the click track pattern. So you have different subdivisions here, or you even have complete patterns like the Sun clave. And of course you can change the sound as well, from different metronomes to a cowbell, drumsticks.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
Or even a human voice that counts along. With the registration function, you get some snapshots of your system. At the FGDP 50 you have 4 snapshots, at the FGDP 30 you have 2 of them. With the 4 buttons you change the registration. For instance, you have a drum set, and then you like to change quickly to another drum set. This is possible. What you can do, you can add, for instance, some effects to the drum sets and then register them as the set with the effects. Other things you can do with the registration, for instance, you like to have different functions on buttons and then you store them in that registration. So for instance here I use this button to create reverb. Or I have another button to have pitch changes. So all of this you can set and then register in one of those 4 registration snapshots. An easy example could be that you like a drum set, once with a normal snare drum and maybe with a higher pitched snare drum. So first thing what you do with the registration, you just push for the regular snare drum or for the regular set button number 1, completed, saved. Now everything is saved, and now you go into the snare drum, change the pitch, and save the set as it is with the new snare drum on registration number 2. And now at the very end you still have to save the registration. This is by going in the registration and then just save to, you name it, and save it. It's very easy to integrate the FGDP in your studio setup. In this case you can use the FGDP as a MIDI controller, audio interface or sound module. And this by just connecting one cable to the USB to host port. Let's start with a MIDI controller. For instance, here I opened a Groove Agent in Cubase, and now I can play all the sounds from my FGDP. In this case, the FGDP works as a MIDI controller for your DAW. If you use the FGDP as an audio interface, then you can listen to your DAW's output through the FGDP's speaker and headphones. For example, now I play this loop and then it goes through the speaker and the headphones from the FGDP. And of course you can record the internal FGDP sounds directly as audio in your DAW. You can record MIDI with it. And of course, you can now play back the MIDI notes and can use the FGDP as a sound module. And of course, you can always record on top of it and layer your sounds. If you like to video record your performance and share it on social media, then you can use the FGDP in conjunction with the Rec and Share app. You can connect your FGDP just with one cable to your phone or to your tablet using the 2-host USB port at the back of the FGDP. Okay, let's record. Now I stop the recording and then I hit save. I hope you enjoyed this brief overview, have fun with the FGDP and thank you for watching.
Wow, I am convinced that I could be a drummer with my fingers.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that percussive set there too, for sure.
Yeah, it had some great samples. The drum kits sound awesome, and the functionality overall, like it's a MIDI controller, it's an audio interface, and it's able to integrate with the mobile devices, which it should these days.
Yeah, big audience for that, for sure.
Yeah, I think Yamaha's finally getting it right in the drum game. Good job.
Nice. I think we only have time for one more.
Yeah, but this is a cool one. This one
Yeah.
is probably the one I'm most interested in because Nectar 3 has been a time saver and works its magic vocally when I have to do mixes with vocals. Nectar 3 was like a big go-to to solve lots of big vocal mixing issues really easy. You can pretty much go with their presets, but once you actually start adjusting from their presets, they give you a lot of control and flexibility.
Indeed.
iZotope is one of the best plugin makers out there.
Mm-hmm. And you definitely hear about Nectar all the time. So let's see what they have in the newest with Nectar 4.
Yeah, another 4th gen.
Mm-hmm. It's time.
Achieve professional quality vocals effortlessly with iZotope Nectar 4. This all-new comprehensive vocal mixing tool provides a complete set of features for mixing, producing, and designing vocals. And you can get it today at iZotope.com. Here's what's new in Nectar 4. The Vocal Assistant page now provides a broad interface for making simple and helpful decisions without getting lost in the details of vocal mixing. Choose from various targets in your library to instantly achieve the desired sound, or import a custom reference track and Vocal Assistant will match its tone.
Pave me your way through the
You can keep your space if it feels any better. You can keep your space if it feels any better. You can keep your space if it feels any better. But they're closing up the bar, should we just leave here together? But they're closing up the bar, should we just leave here together?
And now, AudioLens is compatible with Nectar 4's Vocal Assistant, allowing you to tone match any vocal sound. When you play a track from your computer or a streaming service, AudioLens will use source separation technology to listen and then extract the tonal information of just the a cappella performance. That performance is then saved as a target, which you can call up in the custom reference targets within Nectar's Vocal Assistant, making it convenient to access your references in any session. Use the Assistant page to make impactful decisions regarding EQ, intensity, and width to shape your vocal sound. Seamlessly blend vocal effects like dimension, reverb, and delay. Layer, shift, and pitch your vocals for added movement and depth.
In my mind, I swear there's colors in my mind. At the dive, they're playing Bowie for a dime. In my mind, I swear there's colors in my mind. At the dive, they're playing Bowie for a dime.
The improved Voices module gives you the ability to create complex layers for your vocal production without needing to learn voice leading and harmonic motion. Find a preset that describes the sound you want in your head, and then tweak it to your liking. The completely overhauled auto level module is an intelligent and transparent alternative to compressors. Placed at the start of your signal chain, it acts like a recording engineer, effortlessly managing vocal levels. Auto level module's tame noises feature distinguishes between sung and unsung vocal content, ensuring only tonal elements are leveled, eliminating the need for manual volume automation, without introducing unwanted artifacts like traditional compressors, giving you a clean and natural sound.
It's the same old situation with your dumb luck. You spend all your time hanging on. It's the same old situation with your dumb luck. You spend all your time hanging on. You've got your reasons for giving up. It's the same old situation with your dumb luck. You spend all your time hanging on.
And it's not just for sung vocals. Use the auto level module for podcast dialogue to reduce breaths and sibilance, creating a smooth, leveled dialogue track.
Now, the research that went into this story is something else. We're talking storage lockers filled with case files, photographs. Now, the research that went into this story is something else. We're talking storage lockers filled with case files, photographs.
With Nectar 4's new backer module, you can now create artificial background singers that sit behind your main vocal. Pick from 8 different styles or import your own acapella to further customize your sound. Finish up a demo with different flavors of vocalists.
And we'll sing it once again. When we sing together, it's like we were never alone. We want to forever believe our music will ring where green things grow. We know it'll fade, so we sing ever stronger, fill up our hearts with hope.
Creatively destroy ad-lib tracks or create something new altogether. Also new in Nectar 4 is the ability to break out of the module chain structure and use all 13 modules as individual component plugins to create powerful, innovative effect chains for vocals or anything in your mix. Achieve professional quality vocals with tools like the Auto Level module for consistency, the Voices module for effortless vocal layering, the Backer module for artificial background singers, and the Vocal Assistant for easy and powerful vocal production. Unlock the power of Nectar 4, the ultimate vocal mixing solution.
Wow, that left me breathless for like 15 seconds.
It's a good thing we left on that one, or we're ending on that one, because I think I just lost my mind. Oh my god.
Well, yeah, my jaw. I had to pick my jaw back up in those 15 seconds. Holy shit, the improvements that they've added to 4.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And you saw my eyes when they had the virtual backing track. It's like, excuse me.
Well, yeah. Did you see? And the example, like, I have to get my hands on this and play with it. That the vocal AI, the vocal analysis. They had that with 3. You kind of had to like turn it on, let it sample for a little bit, do some thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like they have completely like integrated it AI level. This plugin is smart.
Oh yeah, very solid. I mean, that's amazing. So yeah, we're definitely. I got to put my mind back together there again, and then then we can go like figure out what I would do with that, because I would do a lot of stuff with that for sure.
Yeah, and again, time saver. When in the old days, you're trying to mix vocal tracks, and sometimes you got to duplicate tracks, spread them yourself, add the effects that you need to. A lot of the magic that goes on with some of their presets takes care of that in a one-click preset with great knobs to adjust to the perfect level of spread.
Exactly.
That is iZotope. Thank you.
Very solid.
Keeping technology moving forward there.
And we're going to think on that one for next week.
Yeah.
We'll come up with some more stuff for everybody.
We will have more gear horrors in the future. Hopefully,
Yes.
like showing off some of ours.
Indeed.
That's been
For
asked.
for today, I think the big one today was just the fact that we have the Big Muff Pie, because that was one that we went through earlier. Went through the pedals. One that I happened to have in my setup over here. I was like, all right, that's definitely got to be one of the ones we got.
Oh, and the Big Muff has made several appearances on our shows.
Exactly. First time I've seen it broken out on the videos, though, for sure. And you got a good example of it there and how it sounds, which is solid too. But for this week, we're going to sign off. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Always a pleasure to come out and talk some IT. with Glenn and Tony. And Gear Wars edition today. So we'll figure that out again for another time.
Like Robot Wars, except with music gear.
Exactly. So until next time, everybody. Bye-bye. Ambient noise, yeah.
So now you're grabbing some band lab clips.
Now for me, that would also be something where I would use like volume automation and like bring that from the bottom, like bring it in and then bring it back out.
And these are the kinds of sounds you can stretch. With this AI, like stretching it actually can be cool.
Oh, that was perfect for the interlude too.
Ends it right in the right
I
spot.
didn't even notice 40. I didn't even realize the texture faded out at the interlude until it happened. I'm like, wait a minute.
Sometimes you just, it was just meant to be that way.